Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Wallingford Planning and Zoning Commission to order. It's our September 8th, 2025 meeting. If you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And at this point in time, I'd like to introduce the members of the commission that are here this evening. To my immediate right is James Fitzsimmons, member of the commission. Next to Jim is Jeff Cohan, also a commission member. Next to Jeff is Brian Rivard, Brian, an alternate. And next to me is David Parent, an alternate, as well as Joseph Sanders, also an alternate on the commission. At the table lower left of me is Cheryl Ann Tubby, who's our recording secretary. Next to Cheryl Ann is Kevin Pagini, our town planner. And I'm Jim Seichter, the chairperson of the commission. Also, I'd like to introduce the individuals that are at the lower table to my right. Thomas Hogan is the gentleman to the right. And next to Tom is John Scarab. These gentlemen, Tom is from, or rather Mr. Hogan is from Wright Pierce, and Mr. Scarab is from GM2. These gentlemen are the individuals that prepared the traffic review for the application we're taking on this evening. I do want to point out, because there were some questions concerning the peer review. Peer reviewers were, they were hired by the town, they were selected by the town. The applicant had, no input as far as who was going to do the peer review on the application. Just wanted to make that clear. But our first order of business will be consideration of the approval of the minutes of our August 11, 2025 meeting. Any commission members with any additions, omissions? If there's none, I'd entertain a motion on the application. Or rather, on the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting Monday, August 11th, 2025, as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. All approved?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any denials?
Abstain.
And Mr. Rivard abstains. Okay, with that, moves to our first item on the agenda, which is continuation of a public hearing for a special permit for Midwood Management Corp. 1000, 1020, 1030, 1044, and 1080 Barnes Road. The applicant would please come forward to begin preparing for the presentation. And Mr. Fitzsimmons, if you would please note all additional correspondence for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The commission received a memo from Shirley Shadish on August 13th of this year. On August 14th, we received a letter from a Joseph Heron. On August 17th, we received an email from an Ed Holman regarding this application. On August 20th of 2025, we received a memorandum from the Department of Engineering regarding this application. On August 21, we received a letter from a Jack Aragoni addressed to the town planner and the Planning and Zoning Commission. On August 29th, we received another email from an Ed Holman regarding the same application, and that included copies of the Planning and Zoning minutes from our July 12th, 21 and August 9th, 2021 meetings. Sorry. We also received a copy we also received a memo from Tom Hogan at Wright Pierce on September 2nd of this year. And then on September 3rd, we received a letter and a package of information. Subject line was response to opposition concerns, Midwood warehouses, and that was from the office of James Barbas Traffic. On September 3rd, we received a letter from a Joan Munger regarding this application. On September 3rd, a letter was received from the Wallingford Chief of Police, John Ventura, addressed to Kevin Pagini, the town planner. On September 4th, we received another letter from Jack Aragoni regarding this particular application. On September 5th, we received a letter from a John Scarrup addressed to Mr. Hogan at Wright and Pierce, and we were copied. On Friday, September 5th, we received another email from Ed Holman regarding this application. And today, we received a letter signed by Catherine J. Wall from the Walls Farm regarding this application. And I believe that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimmons. At this point in time, I just want to note that as neither Mr. Allenson nor Mr. Van Hoyen are here this evening, I'm going to ask that Mr. Revarve, as well as Mr. Sanders, when it comes time to vote on this particular application, to vote in their place. They've both been at the meetings and are certainly well aware of all information in the application. So with that, gentlemen, I'll turn the meeting over to you. Please introduce yourself and begin your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, James Perito. I'm an attorney with Halloran Sage with offices at 265 Church Street in New Haven. I'm here representing the owners of 1000, 1020, 1030, 1044, and 1080 Barnes Road. Midwood Management Corp. is the agent and the applicant for a special permit, application number 401-25. With me are the owner's representative, Kevin Cornell, to my left, and behind me, Chris Fezza, who's also here tonight. Our engineering group is OCC Design Consortium. George Carter is here tonight to talk about some of the changes that were submitted. Our traffic consultant, Jim Barbaras, is with us here as well. At the last meeting, the commission asked us to respond to questions about the traffic analysis and the site plan regarding sidewalks, and you also were awaiting the police chief's report, which you now have in your record. We have submitted additional materials consisting of, and I think as Member Fitzsimmons noted, there was an initial concerns about sidewalks. We have heard the concerns of the commission and the public from the August meeting. As such, we have added sidewalks to all employee parking frontages to ensure all employees are able to safely navigate into their respective buildings. We will endeavor to maintain the landscaping that we advocated for at that August meeting, though it will have to be partially reduced from the sidewalks locations. And those revised site plans are showing those sidewalks, and Mr. Carter will get to that momentarily. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Kevin Cornell, who'd like to make a point about the prior zoning. Kevin.
For the record, my name is Kevin Cornell, residing at 59 Green Hill Road, Orange, Connecticut.
Sir, could you pull the microphone just a little bit closer to you?
Sorry, sir.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Start over? Okay. For the record, my name is Kevin Cornell, residing at 59 Green Hill Road, Orange, Connecticut, representing the applicant, Midwood Management Corporation. For 35 years, Midwood has owned the property that is the subject of this application, and in that time, we've been a good neighbor, taxpayer, and steward of the land. The town created the regulations for this zone, recognizing that the Route 68 I-91 interchange was a key resource for the future of the town for development, jobs, and tax revenue. In reliance on the regulations revised by this commission, we created a master plan of development for the property, which has carefully addressed all of the criteria of the regulations. It should be noted that your commission, in drafting the zone change, has recognized that the first 1,000 feet of Northrop Road has different characteristics from the road north of our site, which has been the focus of many of the public stated concerns. In summation, as per the testimony of the expert witnesses, the town staff, we have met all the special permit criteria of Section 7.5 of your regulations and respectfully request that you approve the application.
Thank you, Kevin. At this point, I'd like to have Jim Barbaras come up to talk about the traffic. And when he's coming up, just note that the police chief's letter dated September 3rd, 2025, and I quote, said, "will not increase traffic in the area and will not be classified as a significant traffic contributor." At that point, Jim, could you please go over your supplemental report and the process you went through from our last meeting here with the commission?
Good evening. Jim Bubaras from Bubaras Traffic Associates. We're located in East Hampton, Connecticut. What we did following the last meeting is I decided to go to OSTA and ask them directly as to what is included or not included in the traffic volumes they had given us as the starting point for us to do the analysis. And we started getting into it, and he says, let's keep this simple. What are the concerns? So I brought up the different ones that were raised by one of the opponents. And in specific, we're talking about 1107, 1117, 1200 Northrop Road, 850 Murdoch Avenue, 5 Research Parkway, 932 Northrop Road. So I mentioned all of this to the head of the DOT Planning Division, and he says, let's keep this simple. Just take your analysis, put all of that in there again, okay? And if we missed it, we got it this time, and redo the analysis. So we did. And what we did was we did a before and an after, and to each one of them, what we did was the background includes all of that added in without the subject Midwood Associates warehouses in it. The combined includes all of that added in, and then our development added in as the new one to the combined scenario. And we did the evaluations. We evaluated the signalized intersections along Route 68, including Legis, including Northrop, including the I-91 southbound ramps and the I-91 northbound ramps. Those are the 4 signalized intersections we evaluated. And we also looked at the 3 unsignalized intersections along Northrop Road that serve our site drives. And we did the analysis, and we found, as we did before, that all of the signalized intersections will continue to work at a level of service B to C, and all of the unsignalized intersections will continue to work at an A, B, C, depending on whether you're looking at the through movements on Northrop Road or you're looking at the site drive movements in and out of the site. So basically, there's no change in levels of service, even though we've added all of this other developments to the process. We then went back to OSTA and said, what about 5 Research Parkway? We added that in. What about 5 Research Parkway? There's been talk there that there's, it used to be levels D and E in the past, and now we're saying they're Bs and Cs. And he agreed with what I've been saying, and that is that you don't have the kind of volumes that you used to have back when Bristol-Myers was in operation. And let me just give you a little bit of a refresher here. I mean, there's some information here that surprised me as well. In its heyday, Bristol-Myers used to employ 1,500 employees. In 2015, when it announced that it would be moving out of Wallingford, it was employing 900 employees. By 2018, it moved out. So thereafter, those employees are no longer there. And if you recall what I had brought up a couple of sessions ago, is that if you take the same size developments and develop them as office space versus warehouse space, as office space, you're generating 6 to 7 times what a warehouse development of the same size would generate. So there's been a significant drop in traffic in this corridor since 2018, and one of the main reasons that happened is because Bristol-Myers pulled out. So I asked, so what do we do about what had been proved before for Bristol-Myers? And they said, when there's further development, and what wasn't clear to me, and I have to be honest with you, when I did the first analysis, it wasn't clear to me. I knew there were 2 attempts for warehouse space to fill the Bristol-Myers space, all right? I thought both got denied. The first one got denied, the larger one, which was 1 million square feet. The second one, which is 450,000 square feet, got approved. Hasn't been built yet, but it got approved. And just so that there's no doubt here, it's definitely in the analysis now. OSTA said to me, when somebody decides to develop the rest of what had been there occupied by Bristol-Myers, they're going to have to come into OSTA, and they're going to have to make a new application, because obviously there's going to be a change of use. It's very unlikely it's going to go office space. It's probably going to be more, you probably don't want to hear it here, probably more warehouse space. It's going to probably be a lesser generator than what everybody has been used to in the past. So that's my conclusion. You have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
If you could just explain to me first how you came about getting your numbers for, for the analysis. Because I would have thought when you asked the state for their, for their numbers, for their analysis, if you would, that all these projects now that you've mentioned are included would have been included. I mean, how did you go about requesting that information from the state, and what's your understanding as far as how the state provides the information to you?
Well, we do this with every project. We all do that. That's
No, I
how we
understand.
do it.
That's not my question.
My understanding was when I asked for what is the scenario that we're supposed to start with out there today, that all of these approved projects were in there. That was my understanding. And I even asked that. I said, so is this all-inclusive? He says, yes, it's there. But then, as we found out here, there's been objections raised that things have been missed and all that. So now that I went back to him, he didn't say they weren't in there. He just said that what they do is they keep building the log, okay? As more developments are approved, they just keep looking at their data and they keep increasing what they have for a base. And then when you come in and say you want to add to that, they give you what they have up to that point, and they say start with this, okay? So they're not saying that these items aren't in there. They're just saying that just, put them in there, all right, and let's not have, and that way we're sure we got it all right? And he says, and it's not going to hurt anybody because they're low traffic generators, so it's not like you're taking somebody else's capacity away from them.
I don't want to not be a little argumentative, but you're telling me then the state really doesn't know what's in their numbers.
I'm not saying that.
Well, no, but
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is he apparently didn't have the time in order so we could go into that and look at the whole thing, because the way they build on what they have is they look at what reports have been submitted and what's in those reports. And then they look to see whether the items that were presented to them were ultimately approved, all right? we didn't have the time to go through that and do that at this point, this second scenario, when I just approached him this time around. So he said to me, just put it all in there, tell them this is what it is. If we assume that they weren't in there to begin with, just put them all in there, reevaluate it all again, and see what you come up with. And what I'm telling you is we're coming up with the same levels of service we came up with without having them in there, all right?
So I guess just so I'm clear, so the state has a database, and then in addition to that database, for each one of these developments that you mentioned, 1107, 1117, then they have separate numbers for each of these, is that correct? I mean, that seems to be what you're saying.
What do you mean by saying they have separate numbers?
Well, you're saying you added them in. So if you had a database, an overall database, and then the state says, well, we're not sure if these additional projects are included in there, so what you should do is to take those projects and add them into your base. That's what I'm understanding you're telling me you've done.
Again, that's what we
Yeah.
did, yes.
So with that, so then what the state has for each one of these projects are individual numbers for what the traffic generation is for each one of these projects. Say for 1107, they have whatever, a number that says this is the amount of traffic for this particular development, correct?
No.
So how'd you get the
I figured out how much each one was going to generate.
how'd you
using
go about doing that?
The same way we did it when we presented the original report to you, is they were all warehouses, okay? And as you know.
Sir, if you could just pull that a little bit
Oh,
closer
sorry.
so they can pick you up.
Is that
Sure.
what that bell is?
Yeah, that's what the bell is. It's not recess time.
What we did was we generated the traffic using the normal way that we do it as traffic engineers, which is.
So in other words, you took the you
We
took
took
what
the
the
square
square
feet.
footage is, you took what the
ITE.
code, with the ITE, so you took that, and that's how you generated what the traffic should be for each one of these. Is that correct?
To start.
Yeah.
And then I expanded it by doing what Wallingford likes to do with warehouses, which is to take into account equivalent, equivalent
Yeah, that's what
passenger car equivalents, depending on whether it's a car, it's a single unit truck, or it's a tractor trailer.
Okay, yeah, I saw that that's what you did in your report.
Right. And then everything I just did, and I presented to you, I presented it to the DOT as well, okay? And what he does with it, that's his business, okay? He might just take it, and he might grow what he gives out the next time to whomever asks for it, okay?
Okay. Commission members, questions for the gentleman? First, second, third? Anyone? Jeff, do you have?
Yeah, I'll ask a few questions. But before I get into the traffic, you said you want to keep this simple. That's exactly what I want to do. But to do that, I'd like to take a step back if I could. And just start out with, what is the name of the road, Northrop Road? There's classification, and, if you look at some of the old commission meetings, I've asked the same question about what classification of road is Northrop Road. And either the applicant or our peer reviewer might be able to answer this. There's actually a classification for that road. Is it a country road? Is it an industrial road? There is a name for it.
I don't know what it's classified for, Do you?
I don't know what the technical name is,
Right.
but there is a accepted name for that road. Now, this road differs from Research Parkway. Research Parkway was designed as an industrial road. our town engineer has answered these questions in the past. She would know. All right, so you guys don't know what the answer is.
Excuse me, Mr. Cohen, could I
George
just-
Scarrett from
I think,
GM2.
I think it's important to point out, well, what part of the road? What part of the
So,
road?
yes,
Because
I'm
from
getting to
68
this. I'm
up
getting to
1,000 feet, it has one characteristic, and as you drive north, it has a very different characteristic.
Yes.
There's no question about that.
So, yeah, and that, great segue. So, you know, I've run on that road 1,000 times, and this afternoon about 2:30, I took a walk out there. And, you know, 2:30 on a Friday, I really put my life at risk, quite frankly, walking from the start of your truck access down to, you know, the factory, you know, half mile down. There were numerous school buses, a lot of speeding traffic, both ways. I almost submitted to the record, you know, a bunch of photos I took with my phone of cars and trucks moving over to the middle of the lane so they would not hit me. So, you know, where am I going with this? What is, and you're absolutely right, the section of Northrop that just about where your truck access begins or ends, the road really starts to narrow right there. It's maybe, I don't know, 5-6 feet wider. And then when you get to the truck access road, do you know how wide that road is?
I
From-
don't, at the
from-
actual access, no.
Right across from Building 1. Do you know how wide that road is?
I do not, but I'm sure that George could tell us that from the site plan.
Okay, I'd
when
like to
comes
hear
up.
it. It's about 20 feet. And, you know, the section closer to 68 is maybe 25. You know, it's a little wider. So my question is, what is the angle of your truck access exit right there across the street from the exit to the hotel? What's the angle of that?
Mr. Carter, could you come up on that, because you're on the design end? Can you go, you want to go step down?
I can point it out on the map if you like.
Should I give him space here?
No, you stay there.
I better
Well, you
stay
can pull up another chair if you'd like. I think you're fine there, sir.
here. I'm fine.
George Cotter from OCC Group. I'd like to put up another drawing.
Just as a point, it's been approved town road. Right. Okay. The town built.
And there's a point to this.
The entrance for the truck entrance is about 70 degrees from, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's angled so truck traffic entering this project is going to come from 68. There isn't any reason for truck traffic to be on Northrop Road from this project. Our access to the highways is to the west down 68 and to the east either over 68 or up and down 91 corridor. That is where you're going to see the truck traffic. So 400 and roughly 50 feet max, we have truck traffic entering on the Northrop Road in and out. What we've also provided will provide for this, with this application, is a no left turn there for truck traffic, so that all traffic, truck traffic is to go back out to 68, and it is the logical way for it to go, because there's nowhere that
Yeah,
going up Northrop
yes.
Road
Yeah.
is a reason to get to a highway.
Yeah, I understand that, but that's not going to be my question. Okay, so you've got maybe a 70-degree, it doesn't look like 70 degrees to me, but okay. When a truck exits from there, takes a right-hand turn going out to 68, what is the turning radius?
It's that truck traffic with a full trailer meets the requirements of what we showed for the curve there, getting back onto the, and staying within its own lane.
So you're saying when that truck makes that right-hand turn, it's not going to cross over the center line
No,
and
it was
go?
designed that way to meet the turning radius of that vehicle.
Okay, so do you know what that number is? How many feet?
You have a template that you have for turning radiuses for each individual truck vehicle. And it's by the degrees of a turn, it has to make what the wheel pattern would be. And that was placed onto when we were doing the design for this. So that it meets a truck turning from its lane onto Northrop Road, and the road is widening there to create the second lane out of Northrop Road onto Route 68, which would be a left or right turn. You have a dash line creating two lanes as you get to Route 68, as shown on the plan to your right.
How?
The movements for a truck in and out to 68 with the widening of this road on Northrop for this section is why you limited the truck access to 1,000 feet. And you
Okay,
created a
so-
different condition for the rest of Northrop Road.
So you just said you're going to widen the road, or
No,
the town of
it's wide
Wallingford?
enough now in this section to handle the truck movements in and out of the property.
Okay,
And this second truck access is across from the intersection of Ligas straight into the property on Old Barnes Road.
okay, so how long does it take, a truck to make that turn to 68? And basically what I'm driving at is,
The sight lines along this road are more than adequate because it's a straight line view.
it is a straight line, and, I saw the police chief's recommendation that, they make the speed limit 25. However, again, based on my, half-hour walk today, 25 is probably half the, speed limit that is actually done there. So, the safety aspect right there, I think is a little bit, troubling.
It meets the requirements, and you have a wider road at this area where we place that entrance.
Well, sometimes the requirements are just that, requirements and not practical.
I think what you see in this road where it widens out to provide two lanes is adequate for entrance into the property and exit out of the property. And I think the traffic engineers will concur on that.
I don't know if I can get into the, sidewalk type stuff, or you just want to stick with traffic for now?
Well, I think for the moment, why don't we stick with the traffic, but I don't know if our peer reviewers would like to give any comments concerning the question as far as the turning and the adequacy as far as in their view.
Sure, these are easy questions for you guys. You said you put the truck template on it. Can
Sir, if you
tell-
could just identify yourself, please.
Sorry, John Scarab with GM2.
Yes, we put the truck templates on to make sure that we had the adequate
Can you
space
tell
to
me which
to make
truck
the
template
turn.
you took on it? Which
Make-
one? W50, W62, 65? What did you use?
The 65, the
You used the
72.
65. Is that the truck that's going to be coming out of there, or is that more conservative than the truck that's coming out of there?
It's, right now, we used it for the largest vehicle to make sure that the largest vehicle make the turn, would adequately make the turn and stay within the lane. There isn't an actual user at this point in time, but we made the design so that it would accommodate all truck traffic entering these two locations.
That's consistent with what we would do in a WB65. We use a W67. That's a very large truck. If they've put that template on there and it works, that's standard practice. So that truck is more than adequate.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. You know, as far as the traffic, again, based on, you know, the numbers, and there's going to be folks who can speak a little more eloquently on, you know, levels of service than I can, but from my recollection, these levels of service, when we were doing the Bristol-Myers warehouse and some of the other warehouses in the area, we did have levels of service that were D&E. And, you know, one of your traffic memos does touch on, you know, level of service D&E, but it hasn't changed. And I can find the document. My filing system not so great here, but it's a lot of paper. Shoot. Well, I will find it, but I'll just finish my thought that the levels of service do not increase with this traffic. And basically, my question is, when does traffic fail? How much more has to be added for that level of service D&E to fail? You know, when do you say, no, we can't have any more traffic?
Well, it's not now. It's not now because it's not failing now.
Well, that's,
If you would pull the microphone closer to you.
Right now, you've got levels of service B and C. I don't know how many ways it takes for me to say this, all right? You don't have the Ds and Es you saw in the past. You don't have the volumes you had in the past.
Jim?
Yes.
Your microphone's off. Press the button. There you go.
Okay.
Start again.
I'll repeat myself, okay? You don't have the levels, you don't have the traffic you had before in the prior analysis or in prior years. You have a drop in the amount of traffic that this area is carrying. All right? So where you were seeing the Ds and Es, and you were seeing them when you had the prior drug factory, and then you had it also when there was an attempt to, I think there was an attempt to put in an Amazon with all the traffic it was going to generate, all right? That's not the kind of traffic that's being generated in any of the scenarios that are before you now. And the volumes that they evaluated back then, because they were working on past historical numbers, there are new numbers now because the volumes have dropped. I don't care where you go in Connecticut today, you're going to find lower numbers now than there were 10 years ago.
Excuse me, let the gentleman talk. The public will have an opportunity to speak. Be respectful, let the gentleman talk, and don't interrupt, and that'd greatly be appreciated. Thank you.
There are lower volumes out there today than there were back 10 years ago. 7 years ago, 8 years ago. So right now, it's working, those ramp intersections are working at a level of B and B and C, all right? And they will continue to work at a B and C with the developments we're talking about here. And our development, which is 415,000 square feet of warehouse space, which traditionally are the lowest trip generating developments, warehouses.
Okay.
They don't generate like an office space does.
Yes, I understand that. Okay, I found the document. This is your revised Table C, Summary of Traffic Operations Analysis. And basically, you have background, no build 2026, includes 1117 Northrop, blah, blah, blah. Then you have the combined build 2026, includes all that background does. And I'm not sure what you meant by that. Plus the Millwood warehouses. So if you look down, these numbers don't change at all. As a matter of fact, some of the numbers decrease slightly in the combined column. And then, Route 68 at Legas Road Extension, you do have level of service C and D. And again, I want to see, what's going to make that unacceptable. And again, based on my memory and, the intersection from the northbound off-ramp east or west on 68 or onto Research Parkway was, to my recollection, a service level of D and E right there. And that doesn't seem to change or even be reflected in this. And, this was during the warehouse that was approved after Bristol Myers left. So that would have been 2019 or so. So that's where I'm really having an issue here. The numbers don't seem to, make sense from what I can remember. And, they really seem to be, they really seem to be at reasonable levels, which I don't recall this. And, you say the traffic's less. I'm not sure I, would agree with that, quite honestly. So this is where I'm having a lot of difficulty with your traffic numbers. There's been a lot of confusion with it. Austa, I don't even know what to say about, your comments about how they handled this. It doesn't seem like a lot of the, and we had to take this into consideration. We had to take into consideration, 24 Research Parkway, the post office, 29 Research, which was the Amazon sorting facility. We had to take into account the warehouses down on the Meriden side, which were, under development. There's one that was approved, but, I think it's on the Wallingford side that's not built. So anyway, this is where I'm having to struggle with these numbers. They really don't seem to, there just seems to be a lot of confusion in how they've been presented, and I'm trying to make heads or tails of them.
Mr. Chair, if I could help with that, that's why I think the town engages a peer review and has looked at all the reports that our expert has submitted. And if there's questions regarding this, I think probably your peer review group is the ones to answer that. And they're written submissions, and they've reviewed all these things from our expert. Time and again have said, yeah, we agree with the analysis, we agree with the numbers, and we agree with the conclusions. I don't disagree with Commissioner Cohen. Traffic is confusing to the traffic person. I mean, I've been doing this for years. I've had traffic experts testify time and time again. I glaze over, to be perfect, I glaze over. But, you know, that's why you have a peer reviewer, that's why you have, you know, experts come in to tell us about this, because our perception of traffic to the daily, you know, person is, you know, it's gridlock or this or that. But we have to base it on a scientific approach that looks at accepted methods of counting and analysis, and what both the industry and what, in the town's case where it does the equivalents for cars, this is how you do this analysis. And so that's what the numbers are telling us, and that's what we presented. So maybe if there's questions, to talk to your peer review group who's made the reports.
So,
Go ahead, Mr. Cohen.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm fine with that, because I'm looking at Mr. Hogan's report, and if they want to comment on it, that's okay with me. Because a couple of the items that he references from your memo, and basically, you know, 2 items of interest. Sum of all trips was shown. Note that the town requirements, these trips are expanded, thus they should be considered to be conservative. So, you know, question would be, well, how conservative are they? And then, you know, your second line there, this was kind of a red flag for me. I do not see an immediate area of concern that would lead me to believe there is a failure in either the analysis or in the operations on Route 68, unless there is some major discrepancy in actual operations. And that's, you know, kind of where, you know, what do you do with that comment? So, yeah, if they want to respond. And actually, just one other thing. I think part of the issue is the baseline from, you know, where these numbers were drawn from. And, you know, there seems to be a lot of concern about, you know, post-COVID, pre-COVID numbers and how they've changed, you know. And I won't state my opinion on whether or not they've increased or not. I'll leave that to you folks. So I think that's a question mark as well. So, thank you.
Yeah, again, I think you gentlemen have heard the discussion back and forth. I think Mr. Cohen has kind of summarized what his concerns are. So if you could perhaps comment on that, perhaps comment also when you reviewed their traffic study, what your conclusions were and what your concerns may or may not be.
Sure, John Scarrett with GM2 again. The traffic engineer who did the traffic study followed the industry standard. That ITE code 150 for warehouses is used extensively. It has a good data set. It's not a trip generation number that has little data. I'm confident that the rates that he used are applicable for the warehouse development. The numbers that he came up with, as he said, were expanded according to the town regulations. The amount of conservative, I don't have a way to measure that, right? Because the development doesn't exist. The only way to measure that would be to go to the site after it's built and do an after study to give you a true measure. The town of Wallingford has a rare circumstance where they require that data to be expanded. I typically do not see that in the studies that we do. It's rarely ever called for because, especially for this land use code, there's so much data. So regardless of whether or not he used the average or the equation, I can be confident that he followed the right procedure and the numbers he came up with are reasonably accurate for this type of study. I believe that answers the first part of your question 1. Is this correct, or would you like me to expand further before I move on to part 2?
No, I agree with the numbers that come out of the ITE 150 standards. I absolutely won't argue that. You know, I guess for me, it's adding those numbers into the existing conditions, again, there seems to be a big discrepancy in, what they're stating, what was published in the past, and, how those numbers are now added into what is the correct baseline.
I'm going to address that in two parts. So Mr. Bubaris indicated something new to me, which is actually more conservative. He indicated that he went back to OSTA. He took the information, they said, add it again, meaning they weren't sure if the data was already in there. So it was probably double counted, which means that the numbers you're getting are even more conservative. So you got expanded numbers that were counted twice. That's rare. That probably should not have happened, but it just means that his analysis is more conservative than it would have been if he'd have just taken the baseline numbers and added the background traffic from all of those developments. So we went back and forth, and that was one of the things that we commented on, was that we're not sure what's included. The team came back to us with a revised study. They redid the traffic numbers, and they took all those developments together and added onto the OSA numbers so that we're sure that the study now includes all of that data. We're not 100% sure what was included before, but we can be certain with the numbers you have now that all of those are included. Those warehouses do not typically generate a substantial amount of traffic. So when I made the comment, which is you refer to as number 2, where I said unless there's something substantial that I don't know about happening out there, at no time did I see any comment that the northbound off-ramp from I-91 with that double left turn lane was failing. No one gave me that indication. I heard no comment for the eastbound left turn lane onto 91 North if that was failing. I noted in my conversations, or in my memo, that those left turn lanes are extensive. There's extensive stacking there. You asked previously what would it take to make those numbers fail. I noted that in one of the left turn lanes that is very long, that you had a number around 250 left turns an hour. Around that number is when we start looking for a double left turn lane if the existing left turn lane is not long enough. Looking at what we had there, just to my eyes with my experience, your left turn lane is significant there and you don't need a second left turn lane. I believe that that additional volume, that peak hour was another, I'm just using off the top of my head, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I believe it was somewhere between an extra 40 and 50 vehicles in that left turn lane, which would bring us up to around 300, and that's maybe doubly conservative. I felt that you still had the stacking length in there to accommodate that. I was surprised that the level of service was still around B and C, but remember when you look at those analyses that it's looking at the worst 15-minute condition and averaging it over the whole hour. Based on what I saw, I did not see anywhere in any of those turn movements where there was an existing movement that was at or near a level of failure that any substantial amount of traffic would then cause that to fail. I'll use a simple analogy as if you have a glass of water that's full, you can keep filling it and emptying it, but as soon as you add a couple of more drops, everything spills all over the place. I did not see a condition that led me to believe that the cup was full and about to overflow. I hope that analogy suffices. Does that address your question, sir?
For now, I'm going to pass the baton and let some other folks speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other commission members with some questions. Mr. Rivard.
Thank you. One question. When conceptual design studies were done for the site, was there ever a concept explored that would have ingress and egress solely from 68, avoiding Northrop Road completely?
I can't give you an answer on that. You have traffic on Northrop Road, and The first 600 feet is a wider section of Northrop Road from Route 68. It is a different condition than further up. That's why that truck traffic is entering at that point, where you can take advantage of the wider width on Northrop Road in that 400 feet section. The other entrance off Barnes, you've got a building that is on Northrop Road for truck traffic to have to wind all the way through from the intersection of Legas and Old Barnes. The design that we have is what we feel is the best traffic solution for both entering this property from trucks and for vehicles.
Yeah, I understand. So I think I'm going to just summarize. No conceptual study was done just to have ingress and egress solely from 68.
Well, there's only one way to get into the property, and that's off from Legas Road. There is no other way to get in off 68 to the property, other than the intersection of Legas and 68 over on the very lower left corner here. I wouldn't, in a design concept, believe that that would be the best solution for the property, that you have this section highlighted on the board. That section of Northrop Road is designed for more vehicles than the rural road that goes to the north.
Yeah, no, I understand. And, well, let me ask my second question. Mr. Kevin, he's talking right now. Question. This is probably a little bit of an unfair question. I'll explain why I'm asking it. But thank you first for coming up to represent the management company. Greatly appreciate that. In the event that the commission today were to deny this, what would be the next? What would happen next to the property?
The property started being accumulated in 1986. In those intervening 39 years, we've developed 2 parcels as the Connecticut economy allowed. When you say if it was disapproved, what would happen to the property? The property would wait until either we exhausted any remedies or came up with another idea.
Yeah, thank you for that. So the spirit of my 2 questions are, if I go back to our regulations that exist, this particular use doesn't immediately buy its way into the zone. It's available for use of a special permit. Then the onus comes to the commission to assess 4 things: appropriateness, conformance, safety, and then overall design as it impacts the neighboring area. And I'm not up here to adjudicate whether we should go and fix historical decisions, nor is that necessarily fair to you. But at least as it relates to the safety aspect, in full disclosure, I'm an aerospace engineer, so I understand both data, but I also understand the importance of safety, which I think is a big concern of the public. And what I'm feeling is we're dancing around safety as this road kind of compresses. And I deferred to Mr. Cohen earlier because he has a lot more specific personal experience with that particular area, and everybody's nervous about it. That also goes to the question I asked: is there a pathway to develop this warehouse without going anywhere near Northrop Road? And I think the thought was, that would be really, really tough. So then I'm left with this question: what was the intent of the IX district when it was put in place? And I guess my next question maybe is, Mr. Brigini, when did we decide to create the IX district in this area, and what was the original intent? Because the regulations don't really give much detail on that aspect. And I don't know if anyone up here really knows.
Mr. Fitzsimmons does, because he and I were both there, but.
He's not getting into it.
So originally, this was the I-5 zone, sir.
Yeah.
And so specifically, it was hoped that with the introduction, and after Bristol-Myers came in, it looked like a good bet that Connecticut would be able to develop office and research space in a
Right.
corridor.
Right.
History did not roll that way.
Right.
And,
Yeah,
and recently, the commission changed the I-5 into the IX and changed some other.
Right. Yeah, and I did some background. That's kind of what I got to. And, there was a comment made, oh, well, hey, we've got way low traffic because we lost Bristol-Myers. And if I then put my headset back onto the time, I think the time was aspirational to the future of the town, to the description you just gave. We're going to get more of that type business. We're going to open this up, get more jobs. And the way I'm going to balance my decision, because I think you're going to check the box, like just on the hairy edge of conformance and possibly safety, I'm going to ask myself if I want the IX district to really turn into a bunch of big warehouses. And I don't think, and maybe we all need to step back and look at these zones that we have across the town and redescribe what they might be, but unless I see something more convincing here, this is a large piece of property that, and there aren't a lot left, and I do want to hear from the public tonight, that's a choice I can make, and I know which way I'm leaning. So I just wanted to be, totally transparent with that. Okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Chair, I would like to point out that this zone does permit warehousing uses, and what triggers the special permit is the number of trip generations. So the use of a warehouse is a permitted use here. It doesn't become a special permit until you get to a certain level.
I'm not disputing that.
Yeah.
I'm not disputing that.
I mean, you could say it could be a different level, different size.
Right, but in a world where Bristol-Myers came back, we got some other types of, similar use in that property, that traffic will spike back up. And we can all debate what the level is. I got it. I'm an engineer myself. I understand how, how we're adding all this up. I get, the things that are in the pipeline today we included. But it's a totally different type of business, right? And, that's where I'm at. And I'm not interested in, downstream risks of safety or creating downstream problems as well. So I'm just being honest and
I appreciate
transparent.
that. And I
Yep.
think
and I believe that we as a commission can make that choice. And I'm just one voice on the commission.
I think one of the things that is the benefit of this application, though, frankly, is that it is a large site, but it's a cohesive plan for the entire site that's a phasing, so it does, Wetlands was able to look at this from a global aspect, looking at all the sedimentation, erosion control, all the stormwater on a global basis, so that, it's a cohesive plan to make sure there's no impacts on the reservoir, there's no impacts on the groundwater. That's an important thing as you look at your plan of conservation to, have a cohesiveness here. I understand what you're saying, but I think that's a benefit that you don't necessarily get in piecemeal development.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I had 2 months ago, I think, several, questions on that, and you guys, kindly reacted. But, little known fact is the town's plan of conservation and development is up to be renewed in 2026 and needs to be revisited, and a lot has changed in the past 10 years. And I think these kind of discussions, tell us it's time to review what we want to do going forward and actually have a forward-looking plan. And I think this big piece of property probably falls into that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rivard. Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple questions. My fellow commissioners have addressed a lot of them, but I will do my best. Since you've been here in July and in August and again in September, I've asked this question every meeting. Do you yet have a tenant?
No, sir.
Okay. And I guess I want to make sure some of the responses that you were giving to Commissioner Cohen's questions, this particular application is not proposing any roadway changes or improvements. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And as part of that, maybe to your traffic engineer, if I understand, looking at the volume of data we've been receiving and over the 3 meetings, does that include no changes to the timing of the traffic lights?
Correct.
Okay. So part of the concern that I hear, and I hear it from the public, and I'm sure we'll hear it tonight, is when everyone's make reference to Bristol-Myers Squibb, Amazon, or others, it was a known entity. We're being asked to review and approve something for an unknown entity. So nobody knows how many trucks will be here. Will it be a 24-hour operation? I will not disagree with your comment. The traffic is different than it was 10, 20 years ago because we don't have factories. So that's the problem, with all due respect to the traffic engineers. The traffic study looks at peak hour. Amazon starts their trucks at 11 a.m. in the morning, so they avoid the peak hour, and then they finish after the peak hour. So that's why the traffic counts are different today, because there's not a Sikorsky or Pratt & Whitney that has factory shifts running, which is what traffic counts were designed. We have traffic all day. So I guess the question I have then in relation to the traffic is, could somebody on the desk walk me through the how an employee car would get onto the site and how the trucks would get onto site? Because the last plan we have, or the most recent plan we have, I'm looking at the Legas Road Extension truck access, and I know then some of the other comments regarding the truck access off of Northrop, and I know you have agreed to put in sidewalks along the buildings, or thank you, but I'm having trouble with the roadway, how a employee would drive into the site and how it would not interfere with the truck traffic. And because the landmark of Wallingford building, so the medical building, which is freestanding there, is surrounded by this. I'm looking at the parking. I'm just trying to visualize employee parking and truck traffic working in the same parking lot.
I think we'll have Mr. Cotter, he'll be able to use his mouse, and we can look up on the screen and see how things would flow in and out.
Thank you.
Turn that on.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 entrances to the property. Building 1, which is on Northrop Road, I believe that the people entering with passenger vehicles, employees, would enter in through the truck lane, or has the option to go up to the north end of the building and enter there for the parking lot along Northrop Road in front of the building. For building 3, which is the rear building, there's 2 options. You'd come in the driveway that is presently for 777 on the north edge of the property to come into the parking lot. I think if I was entering and wanted to go to that rear one, I would come up Northrop Road. But you also have the option of coming in from Legas in the entrance to the property here, or you got further come up, there is an entrance at the east side here to enter for Building 2 and Building 3. So there are 5 entrances to the property. To me, the most convenient ones would be the turn-in. If you're coming from the west, turn in. If you're going to Buildings 2 or 3, would be to come in the Legas. And if not, if you were going to Building 1, I would be coming in up 68 from either direction and into the first access driveway. That driveway limits trucks to that driveway only, but again, the numbers that were projected for the traffic counts didn't suggest that this wasn't an acceptable access road. I believe that if you were coming in from the north and were coming in on the back road of Northrop, which is not a significant amount of vehicles per hour, you would come in on the middle entrance for Building 1 and possibly Building 2. Building 3 would come in probably along the access road for 777. There wouldn't be a significant number of vehicles generated from the north on this road, but you have the ability. And again, the traffic volumes that were projected in the report aren't, you know, the trip generation was not that significant that in an hour's time for the number of vehicles projected that the 5 driveways would have any serious impact or adverse impact on the flow on both Northrop and Route 68.
You, right at the very beginning of you've answered my question. The driveways are for vehicles and trucks.
Only two driveways are for vehicles and trucks. The first entrance on Northrop here,
Yeah.
and this entrance from 68 at Ligas. Those are the 2 truck entrances to the property. So, cars can come in. Cars have the ability to enter into any of the 5 driveways, and what they'll probably enter in is the one that's most convenient.
Right, like I would. I guess, and that's why is my question, because on the plan it says truck access, so it's not exclusively for truck, it also could be for employee parking.
Yes.
Employees, okay.
Yeah.
I was just wanted clarification on that. And then because we're assuming the warehouse would be serviced by traditional tractor-trailer traffic versus high box, because this is a high cube warehouse, correct? It's high cube? Is that the code? It's not high cube?
So I know that it's 35-foot clear. I don't know when it becomes high cube. I'm sorry, I thought that was 1 pallet more than what we're doing, but I could be wrong.
So it's not high cube. I'm looking at the town planner. Because
Kevin, as far as the classification?
No, under our new definitions, it would have to use a different ITE land use code, and they're using the general warehousing land use code.
Okay. All right.
So correct, they'd have to be locked into the high cube land use code, which is, let's see, it would be high cube warehouse general, and that would be ITE uses land use codes 154 and 157. And they're not using that in their analysis. So they're locked into the general warehousing.
Okay.
If an ultimate user needed a high Q, we'd have to come back to you for that.
Right.
And do a complete different analysis on that end.
Okay. And then the only, I appreciate, I know you've received, and it's been discussed, and I read it, I acknowledge it for the record, we did receive the memo from the Legal Traffic Authority from the Chief of Police. You've received a letter, correct? You received a copy
Yes.
of the chief's letter?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I know the chief's not here, but now one of the reasons I was asking about the vehicle traffic and the truck traffic is his recommendation, and I generally always agree with the chief, is he suggests that the truck access off of Northrop Road for Building 1 should be a right turn only exit to minimize traffic on Northrop Road and directed towards 68.
We've added that is a condition we've added for signage to limit that to a right turn only for truck traffic.
You buzzed in too soon. So what I was getting at was because the Ligas Road entrance exit is non-signaled, is that, so a truck could enter and exit that way, correct?
Yeah, no, that's a signaled intersection.
On 68, it's signaled.
right here, where it's cut off, this is a stop sign. And then the light is here on 68. It's a stop sign.
At Old Barnes, yes.
Old Barnes, League.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So a truck could exit there at a stop sign and then come out to a light on 68.
Yes.
And then if you, as your traffic distributed, as your traffic counts distribute the traffic north on 68, meaning they're going up 68. Versus down Legas, down 68. I just want to make sure I, you know.
I didn't understand the question. What were you asking? The truck's coming out, the Legas exit, and you want to know which way it's going?
Yeah.
Okay.
How did you distribute that truck traffic?
We distributed 15% to the west, the rest of it is all going east.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's all for now. Thank you. Thank you.
Other commission members? Yeah, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to start by mentioning that it seems that you all have been very thorough with your presentation. You've worked closely with staff. You've worked with inlands and wetlands first and accommodated many, many things there. But without trying to improve on what Commissioner Rivard said, we've got some, we need to kind of weigh everything involved there. And one of the things that I'm curious about, the section on Northrop Road where it widens before Route 68. So there's a section there where the road coming towards Route 68 essentially has a left turn and a right turn lane at present. And I realize that part of this site development is not improving the road. We have to deal with the road as it is. The entrance that you have on the road, how close to the point where it widens is that entrance? It looked like it was pretty much right where it widens, but I didn't know if you knew better.
I think not to, I won't speak for Mr. Carter, but I think that when he was talking about the turning radius, that's where that road was widening out at that point, but
Well, I think we have
he'll
Mr.
testify.
Carter a little.
He'll say it. Turn it on.
Where we have the entrance for the truck, the access opposite the Marriott on Northrop Road, the road is already widening in that vicinity to create the second lane for the left and right turn on Route 68.
So where the road widens, it gradually widens out. It's not really marked as, as becoming two lanes. It just kind of is a little bit wider there, and that kind of de facto happens by the time you reach the light. So I'm wondering where that entrance is in relationship to where that gradual widening happens.
The widening starts further up on Northrop Road than the intersection.
So if I put it another way, and I'll just mention that as I reviewed the updated information today, I was getting hungry, and it occurred to me I should visit one of our town's eating establishments, grab some food, and go sit in the cul-de-sac and watch traffic. And so I turned off 68 up onto Northrop. I drove up to where the Concentra building was, which seemed mostly vacant at this point, turned around and came down the road. And it was a late lunch. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon. There was already a lot of traffic queued up there. And so as I moved out to the right to then turn right onto Route 68, come down off Old Barnes and into that cul-de-sac and watch traffic, and just thinking about the egress in and out of there, and adding tractor-trailer trucks into there, and watching the queuing at that time of the day, and I realized that trucking companies coming in and out may adjust their timing somewhat to avoid the specific time I was there. But in looking at that, I was really wondering, a truck coming out of there, how does that how does that interoperate with the traffic that's there, both the traffic queued at the light? How much room is there for traffic that's wanting to turn right? And I'm wondering if you can help me visualize that.
Sorry.
Should bring another chair up.
Oh, that's okay. We should have provided you gentlemen with 4 chairs.
Get the steps in.
If you want to know from traffic, ask traffic.
So excuse me, so to understand your question, you want to know if a truck is exiting onto Northrop Road and needs to get into the left turn lane approaching Route 68, is it going to be able to do it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Well-
After the signal changes and that queue dissipates and opens it up, the truck definitely can turn into that area.
What I watched today, though, is that, so there's a couple things I think that, and again, I think that there's a lot of great things about the site plan itself. Unfortunately, the location at that road is a bit of a challenge for us and for you in constructing the plan, no doubt. The traffic queued up there at that point, it was taking traffic 3 to 4 turns through the light to be able to leave. I was watching cars as they came into view. I also watched a regular construction dump truck, a 3-axle truck, that after queuing in line to turn left, and this isn't even a tractor trailer truck, after queuing in line to turn left, then there's another light on the overpass to Route 91 that it's stuck queued at, and then it went to the next light to turn onto Route 91 North, where again, it has to get queued at. And again, so in some ways the bottlenecks are, we can talk about whether the level of service is a B, C, or D, but there's different points, and it very well could be that perhaps down at Research Parkway, where there's a roadway that's better planned, we're getting better levels of service, but specific as it is right now, I don't see right now, without having to deal with tractor-trailer trucks, how adding tractor-trailer trucks to there does not impact the traffic, and that's what I'm hearing the data from the experts, and you guys look at a level of detail of things that is certainly above my pay grade, and I like Commissioner Fitzsimmons said, the recommendations of the Chief of Police is, certainly our gold standard, and we respect that. But with just watching what I saw today, I'm wondering how a truck turns left when there's queued traffic, how a truck leaves the facility to turn left, how traffic that wants to turn right turns right. Northrop Road just doesn't seem to in its current form, to be a place to add tractor-trailer trucks at that intersection. And maybe can I ask you, I'm not running for office. I'm concerned I'm missing something. I go back to what Commissioner Rivard said, that there's a lot of things to weigh, and I want to be fair to you. What am I missing?
A truck may find it more convenient to exit onto Route 68 directly by coming out Leaguers, okay? It probably would with the signal, okay? It probably would find it more beneficial to come out that way based on what you say at certain times of the day. At other times of the day, making the right turn out onto Northrop and then the left turn onto 68 would work better than it would during the peak hour. But during the peak hour, the best place for the truck to exit would be to exit directly onto 68, coming out onto the Legas extension. So they're going to adjust depending on how the traffic is at that point in time that they're moving on the system. That's what they're going to do, which is what people do when they drive. They drive according to the situation as it is. That's why they're being given more than one way to work through here. As was mentioned, there's 5 exits here. 2 of them are strictly for trucks, but there's 5 for for employees and all that. People are going to figure out the best way to maneuver in and out depending on the time of day that they're making their moves, okay?
All right, so let me, probably, I think this will be my last question then, and again, just trying to help reconcile what we see in the reports to what I watched today. If a tractor-trailer truck, let's say it exits, let's say that there's no traffic on the roadway at that time. Traffic trailer truck exits the facility, is queued at the light. How much distance do we have from reasonably where the back end of that trailer truck is for the left turn lane out into 68 to the entrance and exit from the facility?
I can't answer that question. Maybe George can. I need a plan in front of me to answer that question.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I almost wanted to have little trucks that I stack up and see what they look like.
So your question is,
If we've got a truck at the light, what's our distance to the,
you want to know from the Route 68 up to the truck exit on Northrop Road, you want to know what distance there is?
correct, yeah, thinking about how many vehicles can
Let's stop for a moment. You keep getting the dings here, so keep these microphones close to you so they can be.
I'm looking over.
No, I understand, but you
I'm
can-
trying
you-
not to talk here.
But you can
Let me
pull.
shut it off. Hold on. George, have you got an idea how much that is? I don't have a scale here. I would say it's excuse me. We got 400 feet? From here to there, do we have 400 feet?
Yes,
Okay.
450.
450 feet. From the stop bar on Northrop southbound at 68 to where the exit is out of the site is what is called the truck access is 450 feet.
thank you guys, appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other commission members like to make any comments? Mr. Pagini?
No comments.
Okay. And again, I don't want to put our peer reviewers on the spot. Are there any additional comments that you'd like to make before I go out to the public for their comments?
Not at this time.
Okay. Again, this is as far as the applicant, any addition to your presentation?
No, I just wanted to point out that we had the revised site plans that did put the sidewalks, because we'd heard the commission, put the sidewalks along the buildings. If you note in the record, the town engineer did not recommend sidewalks along Barnes or Northrop for safety reasons. I think if you've gone out there, one of the things to notice too is if sidewalks were put there, there'd be a substantial amount of vegetation that would have to be removed, and it's pretty thick and, in some areas mature along there, so it provides a nice sort of buffer in that area. I think at this point, we'd want to probably hear the public comments, and then if there's any other responses that we need to that, we'd be answering that.
Sure, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Mr.
could I
Cohen.
comment on that? Because this is my sidewalk issue.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I read the memo from our town engineer, Ms. Kapuscinski. And again, I went out there about 2:30, spent a half an hour, so I guess I missed Mr. Sanders by a few minutes, or maybe he was one of the cars that passed by me. But I was the one that was interested in sidewalks out there. And as you mentioned, she did mention the trees out there. Yeah, there's a few trees, but it's not heavily vegetated. There is ample room for a sidewalk. And I understand the concern about having the town of Wallingford, ultimately maintain the sidewalk after, it's built. There's also, the vegetation is really minimal, and I took a couple photos to prove my point, but I would argue that point. One of the things I did notice and recall is, there's a nice typical New England stone wall out there. And, the plans here do not take into account, saving that or, rebuilding it after this is built. So I wanted to point that out, that that would be a nice thing to save. Now, she goes on, and we had the discussion last time about, well, we've never required these sidewalks in the past, and I made the comment that, we got to start thinking about doing things a little differently. If you go down to the other end of Northrop, almost to into Meriden, where they have their warehouses, they have a nice area with sidewalks along where their warehouses are located. When I walked today, I needed a sidewalk. The fact that there may or may not be a lot of pedestrians on there, I think is not really a point to consider, because for one person to, safely walk on that road, to me is more important than, not having these sidewalks. Last week I drove by and there was a family, five people walking in the road, and luckily they were just going over to the hotel, but this was on a Sunday and there wasn't much traffic, but they could have used the sidewalk. So I would argue against the town engineer about, not requiring these. I think it is a primary safety concern, and again, there's minimal trees out there. Yeah, they're going to come down anyway when you build this. Those trees are not going to be saved with what you have on the plans, and it's not heavily vegetated. So I would again argue for adding in these sidewalks. There was one other thing I wanted to mention here. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cohen. As I mentioned, this is a public hearing. We'll entertain comments from the public. I would say, I know there's a lot of enthusiasm out here. I would just request that after each speaker gets done, it's kind of not an entertainment venue, so please just refrain from the clapping and what have you, and let's try to keep this rather calm. So with that, I'd like to see a raise of hands. I'm going to start here on the right. For those individuals on the right that would like to speak, please raise your hand, and we'll start with this gentleman, and then we'll start working back, and then we'll move over to other sides of the auditorium. Yes, gentlemen, sir, you're up first. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Lou Maglione, 977 North Farms Road, Wallingford. Good to see all you guys again. I know a couple of you personally. We moved to Wallingford. I had to get my notes here because otherwise I'll get lost. We moved to Wallingford in the mid-'80s. We looked around North Haven, Hamden, and we passed it up. It was just too busy. It's just too big of a town. We looked at Wallingford, and even though Route 5 was busy, and even busier now, as soon as you got off of Route 5, it's really a small town, and it has a bit of a country vibe to it. That's one of the things that sold us about Wallingford. It's not a place that needs high-rise buildings, doesn't need data centers, multi-story warehouses. They just don't fit, and they don't belong here. When proposals come up like this, we look to you guys. I mean, you're really the keepers of the land. And we look to you to make decisions that keep us safe. I want to talk about traffic and safety. And with all due respect, the comment that there was more traffic in 2018 with Bristol-Myers there, I mean, that would be like me saying to you in general, there was more traffic in 2018 than there is in 2025. And if I said that to you, you'd probably think I was a bit off kilter. That's not the case. I live there. I've been there for 40 years, 24/7. I know what the traffic is. Everybody in here can probably give you a better shot of what the traffic actually looks like there. And I'm going to try to give you a little bit of what I see every day. In the past 2 or 3 years, the traffic has doubled, possibly even tripled. Cars and trucks. I mean, it's absolutely saturated. I see them every day. R&L, Royal, Superior, Cowan, SYS, UPS, A. Dewey Pyle, R&R, Old Dominion, Stop and Shop, Cisco, XPO, Amazon, Hazelwood, J.B. Hunt, FedEx, Walmart. That's just a few of them. I see them all the time. They're not only on 68, they're coming down the side roads. And unfortunately, you know, these guys have a job to do, and they're on a mission. Thank goodness for notes. And a list of trucks, I mean, it just goes on. Trucks come from 91 north and south. Trucks come from Middlefield. Trucks come from Research Parkway, where there are several truck depots. Trucks come up from the bottom of 68, all the way from Route 10. Trucks come from Murdoch through North Farms, and now I call it North Farms Expressway. I'm one of the guys that had to put a turnaround on my driveway, because if you want to try to back out on North Farms, you want to die. Or if you want to go and turn onto 68, the green light, yeah, it's your friend, no doubt about it, but you better take your time, you better look both ways before you pull out. In addition to that, some of the things that are not taken into consideration, their lifestyles have changed. Amazon home deliveries, Walmart deliveries, Stop and Shop deliveries, all vans. They're all over. They're at 68. They're on all the side roads. Another thing to take into consideration, construction on 91. If you don't think that hasn't affected us, it has. People are looking to get out of there. They're using the side roads. They're using 68. It's more congested than ever. I personally think, and with respect to everyone here, that the traffic has really exceeded its threshold on that road. Trucks barrel by on 68. If you're in a turn lane, they got to make the light. They come by you, sometimes they're kind of over in your lane. They shake the car when you go by. Crossing 68, that's another challenge. You got to be careful. I had a friend that used to try to take his e-bike across that. He gave up on it. It's just not happening. Oh, this is a good one. My wife and I see this all the time. Pedestrians crossing 68. Pray for them. I mean, it's insane. I don't care if they're at the crosswalk or not. I don't know why anybody would even think about crossing that road. This situation is already out of control. The possibility of 3, 4 to 6 story warehouses, probably rentals. It's an open book. Who's coming, who's going, what's happening? More trucks, even if you have stipulations, who's going to enforce it? This can only be looked as a violation of our safety. Who will police it? We don't need it. We don't want it. And it's definitely unsafe. Please vote no on this proposal. Thank you. I have copies, if I may give you to each and every one for the notes.
Oh, absolutely. And while who's doing this again, say raise of hands. Yes, we'll take this young lady here. And on the right side, any other individuals that like to speak? I know the gentleman in the white jacket. Anyone other than him on that side? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Shirley
If you
Shadish.
just let this gentleman finish his mail delivery. And if you'd also make sure you give one to Mr. Pagini and perhaps also to the applicant. And also, yeah. And if you'd please introduce yourself and name and address, please.
Shirley Shadish, 6 Tammy Hill Road. I've spoken to the group at large last time on this subject. That section of Northrop Road that attaches to 68 is posted no trucks. It has been posted that way since Amazon built their warehouse down on Research Parkway, I believe, because it was unsafe for trucks to be going in that direction. And so there was sort of a gentleman's agreement, I believe, between our police department and Amazon to stop the trucks from going that way and stay on Research Parkway because it was unsafe. And so it got posted. And now that Meredon's trucks come through, it's not been enforced. Obviously, there's a couple of trucks still going through. My question, though, to the group is, since it is still posted, was that part of the traffic studies? Does that come into play at all? And how do we remove that restriction? Why was it unsafe for a couple of trucks to go through, and now all of a sudden we're letting warehouses use that? I don't understand how that can be posted and yet not be part of this discussion and part of the permit.
What part of, you're talking as far as the posting? I know it's posted, yeah, it's no through trucks from, what's it, Carpenter? It's a Carpenter Lane going to.
To 68.
Going
and
to
it's also
68.
posted so that you're not supposed to turn from 68 onto Northrop. There's a posted sign there as well.
Okay.
And I mentioned it at the last meeting, there's no way for a truck, even if they were to obey the sign, there's no way for them to correct themselves. There's no place to turn around or go, so they have no choice to continue through. But the fact is that it's posted, that the trucks are not supposed to use that section, either from, no matter which end you come and go to.
Again, I don't want to. I know it's posted no through trucks. And I guess the question, maybe it's a question that the applicant can answer, or maybe, I guess probably Mr. Pagini. It says no through trucks. I'm not sure if that means no through trucks the entire way or no through trucks for just the portion that these gentlemen are talking about. Because I think that's your question, correct?
Yes, and I mean, it's posted just for that section. It's not for the entire Northrop. It's just that section of road. And like I said, I believe it came about because of our discussion a few years back when we were fighting Bristol-Myers and the warehouses there. But Amazon had put their distribution center there on Research Parkway, and the post office, and there was a lot of truck traffic going through our neighborhoods and so on. And I believe at the time, Captain Wright, who I personally had a conversation with regarding this, said he had a gentleman's agreement with Amazon to prevent trucks from using Northrop and to stay on Research. We have no control over the Meriden trucks, obviously, because they seem to come through and nobody's enforcing that any longer. But the point remains, it's posted, no trucks. Why was it not safe before and all of a sudden now it's safe to let all kinds of warehouse trucks come through? And how do we remove the restriction? Or should it be part of this permit or part of the condition for your approval?
I guess, Mr. Pacini, I'd put that ball in your court.
I did speak to the police chief and the deputy chief. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they explained to me that no through trucks essentially means that trucks that aren't a business on the road aren't supposed to cut through. They do think there's a lack of enforcement. They do admit that. They would like to enforce it better, but, I don't disagree with that at all. I think that road is definitely dangerous, but, warehouses are on that road, so obviously trucks need a way to get there, so they are allowed if they have a business on that road, the way it was explained to me, but, we could maybe clarify that more with the police chief and the deputy chief if necessary.
And it was my understanding as well, when those warehouses were built on the Meriden, and they were supposed to use North Farms and not use Northrop. I think that was part of the, I don't know if it was inlands, wetlands, or I forgot where it came from.
Essentially.
But that was part of their approval, was they were supposed to use North Farms and not use Northrop Road at all. So,
Again, that may very well be. If that's the case, then it becomes an enforcement issue. And I think we all know
I agree.
how difficult that is at times.
Yes. Again, my question is, could it be made as part of your permission granted, a condition to look into either remove the signs completely, if it's not going to be enforced or not be used?
I guess you can always remove the signs, but if it does, if the concern is that there's traffic coming down there,
I'm
if you
being
remove
sarcastic about removing the signs.
Yeah,
What I would like to see done is that it's either enforced,
Well, I think, yeah, again, I think we'd all like to see it enforced.
And the
but I think
question is-
realistically,
the question
it's
remains-
sometimes it's difficult to be enforced. I live on Grebe Road. Right near me, there's a sign that says speed limit 20 miles an hour. Now,
nobody
do you
obeys
think
those.
that's enforced? Or do you think most people, in fact, adhere to that? And I think the answer to that is no.
Right.
I don't even enforce it when I'm riding my bike, and it's a regular bike.
Again, the question remains, is it a safety issue? Why did we have the signs posted in the first place? I assume it was for safety, and now we're letting warehouses use it. That's the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The gentleman in the back, and I believe he'll be our last one on the right side, and then we're going to move to the center.
Ed Homan, 12 Murray Lane. I have an issue with the baseline that was used on the traffic studies. I'm concerned that the traffic study that was done in 2019 without Bristol Myers around was with companies operating at a higher capacity. And the October 2024 study was at a lower capacity. And I think just to have a safety margin, the higher capacity should be used and the math should be added on to that. Nobody from these companies are calling up, if they're increasing business, calling up telling them we will increase this, and we're not going to see that until you do another traffic study. Point taken is that the Wallingford Post Office Distribution Center on Research Parkway, I found out last week, is definitely increasing their business, and they're not increasing the footprint of the building, so they don't have to come to town and ask for approval for that. They're changing from 5 towns to distributing to 15 towns. They're changing their routes from 150 to 300. So that's doubling their operation there. So there's room here for an increase based on what's there originally. They're not factoring in the capacity of some of these businesses. They're operating at a lower number right now. They could go up. And by that time, we'll have gridlock if we don't factor that in with a safety margin. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll move to the center aisle, and from the, I'd like to see the individuals in the center like to speak. Yes, we'll start with Representative Mashinsky.
Good evening, members of the commission. It's my third time here for this particular application, and I will be speaking on behalf of River Advocates of South Central Connecticut, which is my other job, on the impacts on North Farms Reservoir. which is a destination recreation lake owned by the state of Connecticut. And I'm just going to summarize my request from the previous meetings to have the commission protect the public values of the largely undeveloped shoreline that fronts this 64-acre lake. So I'm speaking for the folks who use the lake for recreation, bird watching, and so forth. The public does use the North Farms Reservoir for boating, fishing, and bird watching. And according to eBird, the Cornell University's public list, at least 122 species of birds, including adult and juvenile bald eagles, rusty blackbirds, hooded mergansers, buffleheads, northern shovelers, these are all ducks, American widgeon, green-winged teal, ruffed-winged swallow, and osprey have been seen there. There were 5 bald eagles, some adults, some juveniles, in this past winter. And in June, when I was in my kayak, there was an adult aloft over the kayak. The eagles had been nesting on the island from 2009 to about 2019 until the nest fell down. I could not find the new location of the nest, but these mixed families are still foraging for food at the reservoir. The birds bring great joy to viewers who stop by to observe and photograph them. You on the commission can protect the eagles and other wildlife if you require the applicant to preserve a wide border of trees and shrubs on the east shore of the reservoir, preferably stretching 50 feet from the water's edge. The most sensitive time for the eagles are during nesting, the time they spend in the nest before the young fledge, and in the winter roosting time. If the Midwood project intends to use blasting, the commission should require the developer to avoid blasting during the sensitive periods, which leaves September, October, and November as the only safe months for blasting if we are intending to protect the eagle population. North Farms Reservoir has a history of fish kills and heavy growth of aquatic vegetation because of its shallow depth and previous nutrient loading, especially phosphorus. The developer has designed an excellent stormwater collection and treatment. The groundwater recharge feature is commendable. And it is also necessary because there will be 770,732 square feet of new impervious surface. One challenge for us is to ensure that the oil, water, and grit separation system will continue to work to operate for decades into the future. The commission should consider requiring the applicant to post a bond for the continued maintenance of the stormwater system by any future owner. I have been to other towns, similar applications, and sometimes the systems only work initially, but they are not maintained. And so I would ask that the commission do what it can to maintain the systems. And then finally, ideally, the commission would require the removal of any poisoned pest animals that are a result of pest control. Because eagles are scavengers, they will eat dead animals if they can't eat fish, and they may become victims themselves. So thank you for your attention to these requests, which we hope will preserve the wildlife values, the fishing, and the paddling at North Farms Reservoir, that the public may continue to enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, show of hands on the, yes, gentleman right there.
Good evening. Joe Stellato, 7 Coventry Court. I have some questions are they able to answer some of these questions if I ask
If you
them?
direct your questions to me, and then I will pass them on to them.
Great. So on the traffic study by Barbaros, that is him, correct? Or his company? All right, just making sure. He had a couple of different, looks like maps that he drew a bunch of numbers on. And I want to make sure of this, just to make sure. He had additional developments. Is he talking about now, the additional developments that were put in place prior to these buildings going up?
I believe he is, but I'll let the gentleman answer that. I think the question is, again, you have your maps, you put additional developments. In your memo to us, you indicated the ones that you were additional including, and I believe you've included those on your chart here.
Specifically, I'm looking at the PM all additional developments.
That's all the new ones that we added to what we had not previously evaluated.
Okay.
So that's all the new stuff that we added for this latest go-around.
But is this the existing traffic study of what the existing traffic is right now, or just in addition?
That's what the background and the combined scenarios would be. They're not there yet because some of that stuff hasn't been built yet. It's been approved, but it hasn't been built.
So this is adding to it, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, yes, it's adding to what's out there today, yes.
So then your revised background for the 2026 PM peak, just so I understand that more, you're saying coming up 68 passing Northrop Road is 1,075 vehicles? Is that right now, including the additional?
That's what it will be once everything that has been approved is in place.
The warehouses?
Right, the warehouses.
Okay, so that's about a 1,600% increase.
Over what?
That's what I'm trying to find out. It's hard to tell because the writing, you just kind of wrote it all in, and there wasn't an actual map with the data typed out on it, so it makes it a little hard, and you're written over a couple of different things. So it's kind of hard to follow.
That's what the total volume will be once everything is in place.
So what are the warehouses themselves going to bring additionally?
Which warehouses, sir, are you talking about?
Well, we're talking about 4 total warehouses, or 3?
Are you talking about this application, or are you talking about some of the other items that are included in his?
To understand this application alone then, how many buildings are they requesting on this particular application?
Are you asking what the Midwood would bring in?
Yes.
I would have to go back to my original study, and I don't have that here. But it was,
Yeah, I'll make things easy for you.
you have it?
Yeah.
And I apologize, I only received this online today that I got this information. And sadly, I just started looking at everything because the sign was buried on Old Colony behind all the bushes and trees and everything else, not brought out to 68. I live on Coventry. I come off of Legis all the time. And as he stated earlier,
Sir, I understand that, sir.
the traffic is just ridiculous at that light.
Sir, I understand that. And I understand if you've just looked at this, but again, this is our third meeting on it.
Yep,
so-
I understand. Yep.
So, sir, your question is, what is the Midwood project going to add to the whole
Yes.
system?
Yep.
AM peak will be 134 trips. PM peak will be 136 trips.
Okay,
A trip is a one-way movement, either to or from.
okay. Of tractor trailer trucks or,
It will be,
well, actually, you can't answer that because we don't have a tenant yet, correct?
well, we can estimate that
There's an
because
estimation.
Wallingford has a way of estimating what the breakdown will be. So of the total, tractor trailers in the AM will be 60 trips. It'll be 59 trips in the AM will be trucks, and 61 trips in the PM will be trucks.
just based on the size of the warehouse and what they're building.
Correct,
Okay, but no idea what the tenant or who the tenant's going to be.
correct. But based on data from other studies that have been done throughout the country for warehouses, all right? And then assuming equivalencies that 20% will be trucks
Coming on for those warehouses alone.
for those warehouses.
Correct, okay. So, as you stated earlier, the traffic is horrendous there right now. We just had, the other day, my wife saw a tractor-trailer truck actually come down Legas. We were a little bit unsure of if they're coming off of Northrop, and if not, can they come off of the Legas extension, which is, I mean, that's even worse, because you get onto Old Colony, you do have a stop sign there. There's not a light between Old Colony and Legas Extension. Then you turn to get to the light with anybody else that's there with commuter parking lot traffic, that people are there day in and day out coming off of that light. And the people that go through that light with the cross traffic on 68 itself is ridiculous. They're always blowing through that light. It's really, really bad. So if the tractor-trailer trucks happen to make a mistake and come down Legas, where are they turning around? And that's what happened the other day, and that's not even to do with this warehouse. So I think the traffic is going to be a lot more than what they're stating, but we don't know who the tenant's going to be. Let's say Stop and Shop decides to rent the warehouse out. Well, are they going to be turning right instead going down the hill? Because they have one of their stores there, some in Cheshire, some wherever. We don't know what the exact use is going to be. Why is a decision being made without a tenant first? And I know they might have the right to do that, but as a commission, you have the right to ask that question also. And you brought up a point before about safety. Who is it? What is it? What are they going to do? That's all important. Besides all that, property values for us, and where our taxes just went up on all of our houses around that area, okay, are going to be affected, but we're still going to have to pay the higher property taxes because it's 10 years from now. Who knows what's going to happen with all of that? We don't want the property values to go down. We have enjoyed a very nice area, very nice town. As someone else stated, a small town feel. 68 is already getting way away from that with all of the other vehicles that are on there. We'd like it to stay that way, not get any worse than what it is right now with those three big buildings and all the trees that they're going to take down, and come out on Legas every day and see that building straight across Legas Extension. So we hope you vote no for this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And again, on the right side, raise of hands. Yes, this gentleman. Anyone else on that side? And we'll move over to the left here.
Hi. Walt Jacobishan, live at 940 North Farms Road.
You could pull that up, sir,
A little
if you'd
tall
like.
for this. There we go. When my wife and I moved to Wallingford 8 years ago, what drew us to this town, and our street in particular, was the rural, semi-rural nature of it. There were cows and cornfields on our street, yet we were still very close to the quote-unquote civilization of Route 5 right down 68, and close access to the highway is a perfect location. But the best part about our house was it's right on the reservoir. We have floor-to-ceiling windows in our dining room that looks out through our backyard onto the reservoir. We like to sit in our backyard and look at the eagles and the ospreys. At night, we sit out there and watch the moon come up over the trees that probably aren't going to be there anymore if this goes through. We're treated to a beautiful sunrise every morning right from our kitchen. And we really don't want that to be traded by big monstrosity warehouses taking up that space. When I look at the map here, one of the buildings is very close to the reservoir. It's an area that I'm familiar with because I canoe there. It's an area that I avoid in the springtime because that's an area where there's a lot of baby geese being fledged, you know. And I agree with the other person who said that the eagles will be affected, the ospreys and all the wildlife. But I don't want to change the rural nature of what's essentially, it's almost like a nature preserve right now, and turn it into like an overgrown industrial area. And if that goes through, does the town have any plans to reduce our tax liability to allow for the fact that our property values are going to go down when you take away the best part of our location? You know, we love Wallingford. We want to stay here for the rest of our lives, but I don't want to see a natural area grow up into a big overgrown industrial area and just, I think it would just ruin the area. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else on the right side? Seeing none, I'll move to the left side here. I'd like to see a show of hands. We'll start with the gentleman in the front, and then we'll work our way to the back.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk. And like a few other people, I really had a lot of difficulty understanding what is the data for these traffic studies. And since I have some experience with the statistical designs and the like, I looked at it in terms of there's empirical data, that's data that is observable and measured, okay? But there's also data that's generated by a computer. Nothing wrong with that because you can't do any predictions on trucks, for example, that don't exist yet in traffic. But it's difficult when you're doing modeling because there's this error in the models. Now, the models are fed in terms of the factors being the number of warehouses, the number of parking spaces, and all that stuff. That stuff is put in by the traffic specialists. Okay, so they tell you how many, you feed that into the model, how many parking spaces, how many, and so forth, okay? But it's the state that maintains the algorithm that generates the data, okay? But the input for those factors come from the traffic people. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just offering that as maybe a possible insight for those struggling with the nature of the data. I'm not going to talk about the traffic. That's, you know, everybody's going to talk about the traffic. I can only confirm what I've seen on Northrop Road for 47 years. I travel that route every single day, maybe minus a few days. But what I see is it is unsafe. There is little doubt about that. And it's already been noted in traffic studies, two actually, one in 22 and another one in 24, commissioned by the town of Wallingford. And in that study, they note the deficiencies in the roadway, okay, which make it unsafe. For example, the sight of vision, or the stopping distance, or the width of the road. All that's there now. There were recommendations to alleviate that, okay, but unless they're made permanent and as preconditions before anything is constructed, okay, it's still left unsafe. People walk down there, they jog in the morning from a Courtyard Marriott or any of the other hotels, motels. And there is little doubt about the safety. We should not, it seems, give any little, you know, we're talking about today minimum standards. How to just pass the minimum standards. Wallingford's much better than that. It's a privilege to live in this town. Okay, we shouldn't settle for simply standards that just barely pass. When it comes to safety, there should be plenty of leeway in terms of what's safe. Not minimally safe, Okay, people, people's lives could be jeopardized here. So that, and then finally, just let me say, I have a difficult time in terms of weighing the risk and the benefits of this development. The only benefit that I can hear about, and it's always said, is, well, we're going to give you a lot of tax relief. Well, that's kind of very hypocritical. This town is going to raise our taxes every year, probably, well, this time around, 20%. And the burden's falling on the residents. So it's kind of a hypocritical thing. We don't need that. We don't need that. Wallingford is much better, and I, for one, am very happy to live here. But I hope I could still afford to live in this town. Okay, please do not put these warehouses in. They're going to be an eyesore. If I heard 45 to 60 feet in the air. The Holy Trinity steeple is 50 feet, just to give you an idea what that's going to look like. Let's not make Wallingford Pottersville, okay? We're much better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And again,
good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Committee. Thank you all for your service. Bruce Swerka, 1043 Northrop Road. First thing I want to talk about is our neighbors that aren't here tonight. I have three of them. Karen Zapelski, 70-plus years living on North Farms Road, had to install a turnaround to get out of her driveway. She's lived there her whole life. Lori Mangarini bought her house 12 years ago on North Farms Road. She had to install a turnaround to get out of her yard and will only make a right-hand turn on the North Farms Road. My Aunt Mary Chankis, 85 years on Northrop Road, has the same situation, has to come out of her driveway and only turn right. I know I talked about it before, and I'm going to talk about it again. I live on the knoll on Northrop Road, and it is horrific every day. I'm sorry to say to the traffic people here, come out and experience it. Drive down Northrop Road at 6 o'clock in the morning when the buses are pulling out and they're making left-hand turns on the 68. They can't make right-hand turns on the 68 because once you're 4 buses deep, you can't get past them on the width of the road. The road is not wide enough. Why isn't the road wide enough? In 1925, the town of Wallingford came to my grandfather and asked him to sign up for a thoroughfare. Northrop Road is a thoroughfare. It is not a street. It is not a road. It is a thoroughfare. It is 22 feet wide from Walls Farm at the Radial building all the way to the Sella property at the other end where Northrop Road North was expanded. It's only 22 feet. So let's take our police commissioner or police chief. I understand that we don't want to rock his boat, but you can't put safety items onto a road that isn't big enough to accept any of that. Then let's take the safety of all the people that are here. My next door neighbor, Patrick, moved into my family's house. He's right here tonight. He cannot turn left out of his driveway because of the way people come up Northrop Road speeding, because it isn't policed. No one watches it. Several years ago when we had the meeting at the, it wasn't here in town, it was over at the Doherty building, they recommended sight lines because of the speed. Yes, the speed has to be reduced and the sight line will improve. But they wanted to put in speed tables, speed islands, stop signs, stop lights. Nothing has happened. When are we going to put safety of our people that live in that area first? You've got all the people on North Farms. You've got all the people on Northrop. You've got all the people on High Hill. All those areas, those people travel. And somebody brought it up before. The construction on 91. Do you know how many people a day get off at exit 15, take the left, go over the highway, take the right, and fly up Northrop Road so they can get to East Main Street. Right now, I am averaging 85 trucks per day by my house. Now that the buses are running, it's 30 an hour between 6 and 8. I went down my street at 5:45 this morning, and I could not make a right-hand turn, and I have a pickup truck, because there was 3 buses in front of me, because the road, where it's widened, isn't there yet. So I don't know how we're going to take tractor-trailers out of these new buildings and make a right-hand turn on Northrop Road and have a right and left access on the 68. I honestly think with the 3 lanes of traffic coming eastbound on 68 and the left-hand turn, I don't think a tractor-trailer can be parked side by side, left and right lane on Northrop Road, and make the turn without crossing into that 3rd lane. I don't think there's enough room. Just like on Legas Extension to come down Old Barnes and make the left. Once the first tractor-trailer makes the left to line up for the light, the second tractor-trailer is either going to block the intersection. Same thing. Barnes Road isn't that big either. They can't get by them to go down to the end and make the turn. Those are some serious safety concerns. So what are we going to do about making sure we are safe as the taxpayers? One of the gentlemen that just spoke. 20% increase in our taxes. Yes, we've been blessed. We're blessed with our electricity. But when are we going to be blessed with our safety when someone on our street gets killed? When someone backs out of my driveway who visits me, who I didn't remind them to drive out, and they get hit by a truck coming up the road from the other end of the road, what is going to happen? That's one of my greatest concerns. The landscape on Northrop Road, those stone walls were built by the 3 families that originally lived on that road. You're exactly right. They're not terribly overgrown, but they give some natural beauty to it. The neighbors love it. The farmers that were the generation before us clean those roads every day, so you saw those. Unfortunately, our generation has become lazy, and we don't clean it. It could all be cleaned up again and become a beautiful rural area. The sidewalk issue. I agree with the sidewalks. I think from the hotel to the Proton building to the new warehouse facility, I think a sidewalk is a good idea. Aesthetically correct. Correct for the environment. I don't see warehouses with tractor trailers pulling in and out all day long, drivers just following their GPS. Oh, I got to go to Meriden. Let me make a left-hand turn and go up Northrop Road. And then he can't make the left-hand turn and ties up traffic. I said it at the last meeting. The Proton building being built, our street was stopped from 5:15 in the morning until 7 o'clock in the morning. Thank God school was out, because you could not pass the trailers trying to deliver the panels on our 22-foot road. No one has addressed the safety from Route 68 to Northrop Road to the Meriden line to Paddock Avenue to North Farms Road and all our neighborhoods in between. No one has. The condition of North Farms Res. How close are we going to let it go? Representative Mashinsky brought up the fact about putting a bond in. How about putting in a bond to protect us? Who's going to protect us if you guys don't? I'm coming to you pleading to please consider, or Midwood, please consider another option for that property. What's wrong with building a beautiful senior facility for all of us as we get older, to live there and have the beautiful aesthetics for us to walk, enjoy the North Farms Res, to have elderly people, to have all the things that we need right there with access to the highway, access to 68, downtown Wallingford. The hotels, wouldn't it be nice for them to be able to walk into a community and see it right there next to them? It would be as much revenue. Last thing I have to cover. Why, in a 2-mile radius of Northrop Road, Route 68 and Exit 15, are there 1.8 million square feet available of warehouse space, and yet we want to build 3 more gigantic buildings on Northrop Road? Can anybody make sense of that to me? Currently, there are 1.8 million square feet of warehouse space, and we're talking about building more. Does that make any sense? Not to me. I can't figure it out. With that, I'd like to thank you. I hope we all consider this for the right way. And being a lifelong resident of Wallingford and living on Northrop Road for 55 plus years, my family's been there for 100, I turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And looking at other individuals that would like to speak.
Good evening. My name is Rich LaRue. I reside at 10 Coventry Court, and I'm past president of the Wallingford Land Trust. To expand on a couple of topics that have been previously hit upon, I believe our neighborhoods are not in objection to developing this property. It's the owner's right. The engineers have done their job, they've gotten paid, and they'll go home. We, however, our neighborhoods have to live with whatever's built there every day after they're done. A couple items I'd like to hit on is there's no mention of a tenant. Okay, not surprising. But how do we know when a tenant is signed up, what is going to be stored there? We're residential neighborhoods. Are we going to have hazardous materials? What if there's an industrial accident and there's a spill? The water retention system isn't going to catch it. It'll catch part of it, but what if it runs off into the reservoir? We don't know. We have no idea what is going to be stored in these buildings, who the tenant's going to be. So that's an item that needs to be considered. What about trucks idling? The truck fumes. The north wind is going to blow right into, in particular, the neighborhood I'm in with truck fumes. Who's going to stop that? Another item is, and I'd like you to really, if you can visualize in your minds, you turn off of 91, you're heading west on 68. On your left side is the Blue Cross Blue Shield Burns McDonald building. Beautiful building, beautifully landscaped, islands and so forth. To your right is the medical building, which is existing, nicely done, landscaped. To the immediate west of that medical building, visualize this, is a building, building 2, that is going to be 550 feet long, almost twice of a football field. And it was mentioned that the warehouses have to have a minimum 45-foot clear space from floor slab to underside of roof trusses. 45 feet is 4.5 stories. You then have the height of your roof trusses for a building that's 250 feet approximate deep. These roof trusses are 5-6 feet deep. Then, on top of the roof, you have equipment supports, 2-3 feet above the roof. And then you have your heating and air conditioning units. So when it's all said and done, this building on 68, across from our quiet residential neighborhood, is a massive wall. There's no windows. It's 500 and some odd feet long, 5 stories high, plus equipment. No windows. You're going to feel like you're in Newark, New Jersey, which I just came from, and I'm thinking this is what it's going to look like. And the same case would be on Northrop Road with building number 1. These buildings are massive, and they're going to be a big box with no windows. Maybe they'll pick some fancy blue-colored sky color. Who knows? So I wish that you would consider the aesthetics, the impact that we're going to live with once these warehouses, if they're approved and they're built, we're stuck with. And it was mentioned, our property values. We have people now stopping us. We're out playing on the sidewalks in the cul-de-sac with our kids. People stopping and asking if we know of anyone considering selling the houses. Our houses sell word of mouth. No, we don't need a real estate agent. Our neighborhoods, Northrop, High Hill, we have great neighborhoods. These warehouses are not characteristics of what this part of the town is. So I would hope you would consider that and vote no. Another item is, and it was previously mentioned, right up the road, less than a mile as the crow flies, is the old International Silver Company. They have approximately 400 square feet for lease. Why do we need another warehouse when we have existing buildings? And that was previously mentioned, very good point. And also I'd like to find out or mention, Wallingford has issued what's known as the criteria for evaluating a special permit. Item 1 is appropriateness of location or use. There's 10 items. 8 of them, 80%, these drawings, this proposed plan is in violation of. 80%. Only 2 items that pass. Sewer and water, I would assume that's correct. There's sufficient capacity. And the other one was the police and fire impact, unknown at this time. So I would hope you would consider the visual impact that this is going to have on our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other individuals in the center that would like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Celine LaRue. I also live at 10 Coventry Court. That was my husband. I want to thank all the neighbors that came forward and kind of spoke tonight against this permit. Really appreciate your support. I am here just have basically 2 requests. I'd like the commission to vote this down simply because I'd like you to think about the future and the families and the aesthetics and just how nice the town of Wallingford is. I've raised 2 kids here. They've gone on. They now have their own families. And now I have a grandson in the public school system. So please consider, the benefits of how this would really benefit Wallingford. And, think about the families and the future, and that is my ask of you. And also to add to what someone else had also offered, perhaps the Midway Corporation could consider some other uses for that property instead of warehouses, but something that would bring more benefits to the families of the town of Wallingford. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Anyone else in the left center like to speak on the application? Seeing none, I'll move over way to the left. Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak. And I see just one gentleman, is that correct? And then another gentleman in the back. We'll take you first, sir.
Jim Petlak, 1000 North Farms Road, Wallingford. I didn't hear anybody mention anything about the 4 buildings that were already built on the north side of Northrop Road that are warehouses also. These buildings aren't even fully used right now, and all of these trucks from these buildings, if they're going to have 59 trucks in the morning, 59 in the afternoon, there's 4 warehouses over there. That's going to at least double that amount of traffic that's dumped out onto Northrop Road, and they're going to be trying to get to exit 15. These buildings were built in Meriden, of course, and they dumped all their traffic onto Wallingford roads. We never had a say in that matter. And then I also recently talked to a fireman who said that these buildings are 5-6 stories tall, 2.5, the small one is 2.5 acres in size. Wallingford doesn't even have fire apparatus that could put out a fire in one of these buildings. Can't reach the center of the building. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the gentleman back to the left.
All right, Don Crouch, Economic Development Specialist for the town. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the IX. The Industrial Expansion District was specifically designed to accommodate industrial, warehousing, and distribution uses in those locations well served by major roads. Why this project does matter for Wallingford: it strengthens the grand list. These new projects grow the tax base without adding heavy service demands. Responds to market demand. Developers are actively proposing warehouse projects in Wallingford because it demonstrates a private sector confidence in the community. Supports jobs and growth. Distribution and logistics facilities provide employment opportunities at multiple skill levels. It aligns with our plan of conservation and development. The town's plan of conservation and development prioritizes attracting businesses to the IX area and modernizing the regulations to remain competitive. 2 years ago, the town had a moratorium on warehousing. After the workshops with Planning and Zoning Commission and the Economic Development Commission on warehousing, regulations were updated to include special permit in the IX based on traffic, site plan approval in the WI, updated land use to use the ITE codes, and also peer review for traffic. For this project, traffic, I mean, it was looked at with the traffic engineer, staff review, peer review, and the chief of police. So we had 4 experts looking at traffic. I think that kind of solves the traffic question.
Let's just be respectful here.
Key takeaways: warehouse development in the IX zone is critical for Wallingford's economic vitality, balances business attraction and tax-based growth with thoughtful safeguards for traffic, environment, and neighborhoods. This development is a result of the updated warehouse regulations and is a high-quality professional project with 35-plus year property owners, which I think is important. When Bristol Myers left, that was a $3 million hit to the town tax rolls. So, of course, residential did pay a lot more this last reval, but more projects in this community will help lower the tax burden on residents. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Any other members from the public who would like to speak? Yes, we'll take this gentleman here in the red and then the gentleman in the back. Anyone else?
Thank you. John Grammatico, 997 North Farms Road. To say that the traffic is saturated is an understatement. The concerns about the wildlife sanctuary that I've lived next to for 35 years is also very important to me. And to think that a massive building like this is going to be just 50 feet from the reservoir, I see a lot of pollution going in there and ruining that beautiful wildlife sanctuary. And nobody mentioned the trash, all these trucks picking up and delivering stuff. Stuff in the back of the truck, papers and plastic and stuff get dumped out in the road. It just blows into the North Farms Reservoir and builds up. Can ask my neighbor, he's been in the back of those 4 warehouses that he's mentioned, and it's happening there. So I ask that you vote this down. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the gentleman in the back, anyone else who would like to speak on the application? If not, this gentleman will be our last member of the public.
Jack Aragoni, 18 Martin Trail. About 3 warehouses versus 1 warehouse. We don't know what's going in there. It was considered 1 warehouse as far as traffic, but if you look at it as 3 warehouses and you use the IT 150, it comes out to 120 vehicles per hour, peak hour, just using the formula. You can play game, I guess you can play games with anything like that. The next thing, this was at the, given by the traffic engineer, stressing that in 2022, 14,400 cars were used. Looking up the DOT studies, that was 650 cars going westbound on 68. That's at the traffic count 237. It's right on the bridge, makes it real easy to look at cars coming and going. You don't have to worry about the turns. Later, he said in 2016, or he compared 2016 to 2022, there were 21,200. Now, why this is important is when he made those statements, the difference between the 2016 and 22, we've went from a level of service, B and C, when it was at 14, and the one he used, to the prior study, 2016, was a D and E. When you look at the latest study, he sent us all the numbers a couple weeks ago. I compared all of his numbers going over the bridge. And they come up to the same numbers as the state DOT had in 2016 at about 11,000 cars across the bridge going westbound. That brings us back to the D and E. Pretty simple. The other thing about the traffic study I noticed, the warehouse, proposed warehouse on research, I thought was much larger than what's on Northrop Road. But when you look at the numbers, they're all identical. So is this just a typo? Or
Again, what's your question, sir?
The
You're
numbers,
comparing the...
latest
the-
traffic
you-
study,
look,
there's the research
Sir,
parkway.
sir, let me speak, please. What you're comparing is the warehouses that are proposed on Northrop Road, correct?
Table D,
Well, I'm just asking you, is the ones on Northrop Road, you're comparing that versus what?
the research parkway.
So the Research Parkway, the 450, or was it 451,000 square feet?
Yes, 450.
450,000.
Yeah. So they're,
Um,
yeah,
And then when you look at the Northrop Road, it's 450 also.
yeah, that's correct.
How, because when I added them all up, there was the Elm City, there was another one, a warehouse of 63,373. It didn't come anywhere near 450. So is there other warehouses?
Again, I'm not sure what you're looking at. I think...
my point
yeah,
is-
correct me if I'm wrong. You're asking the size of these warehouses, which is approximately 450,000 square feet. Let's use that number. And then you're asking on 5 Research Parkway, the size of that warehouse, correct? Which is for approximately 450 feet, something, give or take. So their bottom line is they're equal size, roughly. Would you agree with that?
No.
Okay.
Because
Well,
what's on Northrop Road, I went through and added them up. There's Elm City,
no, so you're not asking what the size of the warehouses is on their property. That's what I thought you were asking. Again, it's
No,
a little
I'm just-
confusing, and
I'm just questioning the report itself, the traffic report itself, how it was put together. The Table B versus D, the volumes, the square footage is the same on both pages. But when I tried to figure out what went into the Northrop and Murdoch numbers, it does not come up to 450. That's
so you're looking at the...
Proton.
So
I'm
you're
at
looking for, essentially, I think what the add-on numbers were for, I think we have a list of, and I don't have the paper in front of me, but essentially, what was added excluding 5 Research Parkway, is that correct?
There's 2 tables. 5 Research Parkway is separate. Table D. I'm sorry, Table B. Then there's another table.
Would you
D.
gentlemen please pull that out while the gentleman's speaking so we can follow his question, if you would, please?
It's in the second report. Table B and Table D. One is for research, one is for Proton Therapy Center and warehouse.
Yes?
I understand the research. It was 450,000. And I don't understand the Table D being 450,000 also.
Table D includes 1107 and 1200 Northrop Road, the property on Murdoch Avenue, and also the Proton Therapy Center.
Right. What do you have
And-
for,
which is 932 Northrop Road. All right? And they're basically the same size.
Pull that a little closer to you, sir, please.
They're basically the same sizes. Table B and Table D both represent basically the same sizes of development, but they're made up of different things. But they're basically the same sizes.
so
So they have the same impact, the same trip generation.
and how does this show up in the second report? Because I get the numbers that you use directly off DOT traffic numbers, the count numbers they did at Station 237. There's nothing added to it.
I don't understand your question. How does this compare to what?
You sent, it's your background, 2026 AM peak, where you sketched in a bunch of numbers that came off of a more official looking page. It was the I-91 southbound, northbound on and off ramp. And you just put those numbers, you kind of penciled them in on this sketch. And they agree with the traffic counts that was done in 2016. Nothing extra. So I'm just questioning the report, what went into it.
Why don't you read the report?
I have, believe me, I have.
If you'd like to sit down with me in a workshop, sir, I'd be happy to sit down with you and go through with this. We can't do this
Well,
right
the
here.
good news is there's cameras on 68 right now. They're doing a traffic count probably as we speak. So unfortunately, maybe too late for this.
But I guess, would it be fair to say, to sum up your comments, that you have questions concerning the traffic report? Is that correct? That's fair
Well,
to say?
I had questions about the basic number, and I sent the letter in, that the numbers themselves didn't look right. It had to do with the way they count. I had questions about that. But then when I saw this, that didn't even matter anymore. This was worse. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And again, I don't see that there's any other members of the public who would like to speak on the application. With that, we will go back to the applicant. I think you've heard several comments from members of the public, some questions that they had. I suspect you've jotted down some of those questions. You know, there is one, because it was raised by one of the members of the public, as far as our criteria for evaluating a special permit. And
Right,
there
I was going to
are-
get into that, but let's
Okay,
have
I would-
Mr. Fezza
Good, I
make
would
a couple of things.
ask
and
you
I'll-
to address
those
that,
will
but
review
sure.
that at the end.
Okay, that's fine.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Chris Fezza. I'm a representative of the applicant here. As you mentioned, the gentleman referred to the 10 criteria that you have as it relates to the special permit. Those criteria include compatibility with the surrounding, it could be zone, neighborhood, et cetera. Other uses in the neighborhood and their compatibility, capacity of the streets, impacts on the environment, topography of the site and how it's impacted. The gentleman mentioned fire and police, adequate sewer water, extent of parking facilities and entrances, neighborhood character preservation, and the standards of all the other regulations. Those are my summaries of what the regs say. We are one of the few sites in the zone, and so the zone is only a special permit, as we mentioned, because of traffic generation and because it's a wetland site. And so by nature, we're compatible with the zone. We went through a lengthy process, as was mentioned earlier, in the wetlands review. I believe Mary was the woman back here before who mentioned that we were commended on our effort in sewage and stormwater, and the effort that George and OCC put in to develop this system. Other uses in the neighborhood, while I understand there are plenty of members of the public here tonight who are residents, to the north, west, south, we don't have any other neighbors that are conflicting in use. Understood that this will be, and members of the public, we are not blind. We understand that we are building or proposing to build a warehouse here. That being said, it is a unique site. We are going to have buffers on, as you can see in the plan, the west side. We've purposely and thoughtfully not had our truck traffic running on the reservoir side of the building. We've tried to create a lot of pathways for cars and trucks to utilize the site rather than the roads around it, to try to convey, which we understand are major traffic concerns of the public here tonight. So other uses in the neighborhood, we think we comply with as well. Capacity of the streets, as there's been testimony tonight, the peer reviewers have agreed, the police chief as well. We believe that there is capacity in the streets based on what all of the traffic data has told us. Similar to what I said about the buffers around the area, we're going to do our best to maintain as many of the trees as we can in the area. We went through wetlands in a very, very deep review. There actually is a required bond on the site as part of our wetlands condition of approval, as was mentioned earlier. And so the concerns of environmental hazards and capacity, I mean, we're certainly cognizant of that, and we're going to do our best to, maintain the ecological nature without having any wetlands impact on the site as we can. That brings us to the unusual topography. The wetlands are an unusual topography. That's part of the reason why we're here for the special permit tonight. And as I said, again, I don't want to repeat myself, but you understand we went through a very robust process there through several public hearings as well. We did not have much public feedback at that time, and so we did incorporate the public feedback that we did get in the wetlands hearing and incorporated it into our design. The fire and police mentioned, one member did mention that there's no capacity of the town firefighters to fight a fire in one of these buildings. These buildings, though not necessarily shown in full detail on the plans, will have to be ESFR sprinklered. That's a requirement by tenants these days, and so certainly would be able to command any fire that's happening on site and be addressed on site without any external party. Extent of parking facilities and entrances. We have robust parking on site, and we are beyond the required parking. And as we've spoken at length about, as it relates to entrances and exits from the site, we're required to have a couple of exits. We have 5 entrances and exits on site, 2 meant for mainly trucks, though we understand that cars could use them as well. I will point out, as it's come up earlier today, that in building the entrance that we have built on Northrop Road, creating an apron, the curbs don't go right to the stop bar is behind the bar, bless you. And the apron does open up into the street, which does create a little bit of a wider access for everyone, a little bit of a safer environment in that area to open down to the wider part of Northrop Road, as we discussed. Continuing down, neighborhood character preservation. We understand, again, the concerns of people and the public, here tonight, and we hear them, and we recognize that, building a large box can be stark. Though I do just want to correct that. The member that mentioned 45 feet was the clear height in our building. That is untrue. The top of the building in total will be 45 feet. That would be the max on the site. And that's part of the required buffer. And the zoning requires a set off for the height of the building, has to be set back from the street. And so in doing so, we think we're maintaining as much of the character of the property that it could exist today as we continue to build and develop the site, hopefully in the future. Adequate sewer and water was also mentioned. And then finally, the standards of these regulations. So we believe we've built this in compliance with all of the regulations of the town. And we'll certainly have to continue moving forward with our more refined plans if we do gain your approval tonight. Jim, before I hand it over to you, just a couple other thoughts. As I mentioned, in kind of response to many of the concerns tonight, the regulations were changed such that this site could be developed, at least as we see the regulations. This is a prime site to be developed into a commercial corridor, and the warehouse use is, as of right, accepting the 2 variances for this particular site. In the first 400 feet of Northrop Road, we agree that it is wider, and we think it does allow for trucks there. And we hear the concerns of the public here, and we understand that, as one of the members of the public mentioned, north of the radial building through the rest of Northrop Road is narrow. He mentioned 22 feet. I haven't measured it myself. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I've driven on it many times, and I've also spectated the traffic from time to time. That being said, we are being as thoughtful as we can about putting the entrance where it is. We didn't want to have any truck traffic go further north of Northrop Road. We understand the concerns there. And by putting a right turn only out of that entrance, we believe that that'll help curtail any additional traffic concerns. Further, just want to note there was a traffic study done, someone mentioned earlier today, I believe the town commissioned by SLR in 2023 for Northrop Road. There was, and I didn't want to jump up here before that, but there is a definition of no through trucks in that report. And it's a through truck is one that has neither an origin nor a destination within the town that the road is in. So the majority of Northrop Road is in Wallingford, and the majority of the buildings are in Wallingford. So that sign does not necessarily prevent trucks from going up there. That being said, what we would like to relay is that we would be a willing and necessary taxpayer by building these buildings. Our estimates based on other properties in the area is that this site would generate well in excess of $1 million of annual tax revenue for the town. And what we would advocate the public is that some of that perhaps be allocated or advocated for to go for improvements to the northern portion of Northrop Road that's been called out here tonight, and seems to be the threshold that the public has. I think that's all I have, Jim.
Well said. Thank you. Fortunately, he covered just about all the things that I was going to review on the standards, and I think he's done a good job on that. Thank you, Chris. I do think that the recurrent issue that some of the folks have been focused on is safety. And while I totally understand what the public's saying, and I'm surprised I didn't see Commissioner Sanders or Cohen today, because I was at that area sort of the same time you were today, about 3:30, 4 o'clock. I was driving around. I was watching the buses going in and out of their site. I drove to the northern part into Meriden, and so the large buildings up that way. And I've done this before, and there's no question that when you leave the lower section of Northrop and get up there, it's very much a country road, and quite pretty, actually. The farms on the other side are beautiful. But when you're talking about safety in the context of evaluating it for a special permit, the cases have been pretty clear. It's not based on anecdotal issues. It's not based on sort of personal sense of what's going on there. It's based on the testimony that you received from the experts that deal with traffic and safety, which are our expert, your peer review, your town engineer, your town planner, your police chief. Those are the people that are charged with making a determination in official capacities as to whether or not something is safe or unsafe. If your police chief had said something different, then I would understand why you would feel compelled to not approve this. That's not what you have in the record. And I think that, when you looked at the history of the zoning in this area and what was earmarked, especially for this end of Northwest Road, we've come in with a design which, and I understand, they're warehouses. That's not people's favorite thing, but that's a development which helps your tax base, doesn't put any strain on your schools. It was designed cohesively in a way to completely minimize any impact on the environment, and we had that long review with the wetlands and made sure of that, and it designed in a way that really tried to keep wetlands untouched, and stormwater and infiltration in a way that enhanced the wetlands and made sure that there was no impacts from that end. So I think that the record supports this use, and I appreciate your patience. It's been a long process, a lot of meetings, a lot of time, and I do appreciate your attention to it and your questions and your thoughtful analysis of it. So happy to answer any other questions, and I would close with that.
Good. With that, I'll ask commission members any questions, comments for the applicant from our town planner, our peer reviewers. Yes, Mr. Rivard.
Would the applicant be willing to consider limiting the Northrop exit to emergency use only?
Good.
Could you clarify what you mean by that? Then there's two entrances on Northrop Road?
The right turn only exit be used for emergency use only, not daily operation.
No, we can't. Understand the concern, but we can't do that.
Yeah, obviously the spirit of my question was to try to take away some of the angst around an existing safety concern and not exacerbate it, which is really what adding any traffic in the area will do.
On the other hand, it would send it all to the Legis Road extension, which was another concern.
Understood.
So, you know.
Again, I apologize. I should have not have been listening to Mr. Fitzsimmons on a matter. If you just please repeat your, I didn't pick up everything that you said on that, if you would.
Sure. For both of us, we're unwilling to have emergency only, and one of what Kevin relayed
The
was
bottom
that,
line is you like to keep the entrances, the exits, the driveways
correct,
as they're shown on the plans.
correct. And
Well, obviously with the addition on the Northrop Road of the right turn only for trucks, because that was something that was added in, that would make sure that's in there. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Other members have any questions? Mr. Pagini, any comments before I take a motion to close the public hearing?
No further comments.
And I'll just go to our, yeah, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first I want to address the attorney's comment about experts. And I'm happen to be looking at the Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies quarterly newsletter, which we got last meeting, summer 2025. I don't know if you get this or not. But very, very timely article. And basically one of the items included in this is Wetlands Board decides which expert to believe. And basically, I won't read the whole thing, but basically the court said that a commission is not required to believe any witness, including an expert. So, you know, again, it's up to, you know, this commission to make a decision based on, you know, the overall record. So this is case law now. So I just wanted to make that point. And then, you know, I think there's still a lot of unanswered issues here. You know, we really didn't talk about noise to a great extent. You know, what can be done to mitigate that? One of the residents brought up, and this actually happened recently, where a forklift hit a oil container and spilled, you know, hazardous material. You know, what kind of mitigation things are in place for that? And then, you know, there's a few other things. I'm still not convinced, again, this is where I'm going against the experts, that, you know, my request for a sidewalk along Northrop is still a sticking point for me. And actually, I want to kind of talk to the commission about that, because as a condition of approval, you know, it says that, you know, comments from the town engineer dated 8/20/25, you know, be included, and that says, you know, she suggests that, you know, we don't include that sidewalk, and I think we need to do that. And, you know, that stone wall has gotten a little more visibility for me, and we really haven't talked about what are you going to do with that. Have you considered building around that?
I think the plans show that except where the driveway's cut through, that it remains on the plans.
It does remain.
I believe so, except where there's a cut through for the roadways.
So I see these guys talk, I mean, you believe it does, but I want to make sure it does.
I think you should be able to see it, but go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just trying to pull it up for you,
Yeah,
because if we have to put in the sidewalks, the stone wall would be gone, because we have to relocate all the utility poles. But I'm trying to pull it up for you, so if you could just give me a sec.
Well,
That's why you're
you
the
know,
engineer.
I think it's possible to still maintain both. You know, if.
Not in the public right-of-way, sir.
If it doesn't fit alongside the stone wall, you know, you put it on your side of the stone wall. So anyway, those are, you know, some of my continuing concerns. And again, just, you know, confusion with the traffic numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
If you look at the plans, sir, the stone wall remains. It's a little hard to pull out because it's on the property line.
All set on that? And I'm not sure if our peer reviewers, if they'd like to make any final comments on any of the information that you've heard this evening. Certainly not compelled to.
No, thank you.
Good. Thank you. So if there's no additional comments from the applicant, no additional comments from the commission, from Mr. Pagini, at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing for special permit Midwood Management LLC, application 401-25.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. Voting beginning with Mr. Rivard.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And yes. So I guess at this time, before I'd, Mr. Rivard, you look like you were ready. I guess before I would entertain a motion on the application, there's any discussion that commission members would like to make on this, on this application. I know there's, Mr. Cohen has some suggestions as far as the sidewalk, maintaining the stone wall. I guess I'd open that up to commission members as far as how they may or may not feel about that. Anyone would like to comment?
Personally, I'd go with the town engineer and on that one.
Anyone else? No one? All right, that being the case, any other commission members like to make any just comments on the application itself? Yes, Mr. Rivard.
Thank you for the presentation. My struggle on this vote is simply, I think, the context of the history around the zone that exists and the potential uses for the future. But it is what it is. Warehousing is a approved use with special permit. I do wish that there had been a pathway to protect that Northrop exit and not use it. I understand that it's a very difficult site from a safety perspective. And, you know, my history in terms of safety affected issues in aerospace and others, you know, always tells me that you cannot further exacerbate an existing issue for safety, irrespective of what that means. That probably will carry my vote today. However, it does not discount my personal interest in progressively developing Wallingford's future in this zone. Appreciated Don Crouch's, you know, comments on that history and the value to the future. Not a single person here disputed the risks associated with that road. Doesn't mean it's your fault, doesn't mean it's anyone here's fault. It exists. Nobody disputed it, not a single person. And, you know, I personally can't in good faith, you know, add to that risk. We also have an opportunity to consider special permits in the context of, you know, risks to subsequent compatibility with surrounding development in areas. I think about what the spirit of future development in the IX might have been intended. And I also think that the traffic studies that exist today don't contemplate a regrowth of those type businesses. And another consideration that we can think about is potential adverse effects to the desirability of neighboring areas and activities and areas in that zone and neighboring zones. I think the special nature around this lake and those communities near it makes that special. Now, you know, my commission members who have more experience in this area could take exception to me and guide me in that regard. Be happy to hear it. But that's where I am today, right now.
Thank you, Mr. Rivard. Anyone else? Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Mr. Rivard pretty much summed up my feeling as well. I think that the Economic Development Commission doesn't look at the whole community. You know, having this development, which is allowed, and putting a, I don't know what the right word is, but putting, you know, something that's not beneficial to the surrounding residents. They need to be considered in these development considerations. And, you know, your comments didn't take into consideration the residents. So I had a problem with that. You know, the applicant mentioned, you know, after EDC spoke, you mentioned about using some of that tax revenue to, you know, widen Northrop Road to the north. You know, I don't think that's a burden that the residents should be paying because of, you know, development from a private individual. You know, why should we spend our tax money when we allowed you to, you know, build this in the first place? So I do have a problem with that. You know, I was a project manager as well, and, you know, there was a lot of information that came up. A lot of it was confusing. It wasn't definitive. There was a lot of question marks from, you know, our peer reviewers, you know, the applicant's traffic engineer, and I just don't know what the real numbers are, and that's my concern. Adding that traffic without having definitive numbers that, you know, both sides agree on is difficult for me to you know, wrap my hands around. So that's a problem. And again, there's some other, you know, minor things. Again, I mentioned the noise. that we really haven't discussed in full detail. And that, again, gets into making sure the surrounding community is, have their interests looked at as well. So, it's going to be tough for me on this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Anyone else? Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wallingford is unique in the fact that we have we wear two hats up here. We're the Planning Commission and the Zoning Commission. And in many towns, they separate the two. Wallingford, we have the benefit of single commission. It was 2 years ago that we had the moratorium on warehouses to give the planning side of this group a chance to look at our plan, look at our regs, and kind of contemplate how we wanted the regulations to be changed or the zoning book to be changed to support the growth. Following that moratorium, and we spent a lot of time on that, and I would share with you, not with this many people in the room, because workshops are not, they don't generate the public buzz because it's a workshop regarding the regs and not a specific application, a specific area. But I've been on the commission a number of years, and I can tell you, the two hats we wear are extremely important in the fact that we have a job to do as planners and then obviously a job to do on the zoning side. So because we spent the time with the moratorium to say, okay, we want to take a look at the warehouses, let's put a moratorium. We spent the time, we made changes to the regs. I was reminded tonight hearing some of the public, years ago, people would say, Fitz, we have enough Dunkin' Donuts in town. Fitz, we have enough car washes in town. I don't get to tell people how they should use their land, because this board is about land use. So if McDonald's wants to put 10 McDonald's restaurants on Route 5 and they're all restaurants, in the eyes of zoning, they're all restaurants. So regarding the warehousing use of this, I think the applicant has presented information. They've responded to our questions. I think for me, the piece that I was missing last month has been addressed this evening. I did receive, and we received from the chief of police, a letter acknowledging, which was one of my concerns, and if I could, he says, I agree with the assessment that the implementation of these warehouses on Northrop Road will not increase traffic in the area and will not be classified as a significant traffic contributor. So that the Chief Ventura is Wallingford's legal traffic authority. The second part of his letter is an area that concerns me, but it's not in our scope, which is and it was raised by our consultants, your consultant, which is the recommendations for Northrop Road as a result of the Regional Planning Commission. That's outside my scope. That's outside our scope as a Planning and Zoning Commission, but as a citizen of Wallingford, that study was done 2 years ago and nothing's happened there. Something should happen, but that's for the people who sit here tomorrow night. That's for the council. That's not for this commission. But I would support the chief's request and suggestion where he says, I support the recommendation. Guess I do too, Chief. I mean, but it's not a purview of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I think the applicant has raised the issues. They've addressed our concerns. And I think in regard to this particular application, they have satisfied my inquiry. And I do think at this point, it's a large application, but this is a zone where we intended for this type of development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimmons. Any other commission members? Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wish there was a way to download the wealth of information that Commissioner Fitzsimmons has and his eloquence in delivering it. So something I'll aspire to. As the chief said, the assessment is the implementation of the warehouses will not increase traffic in the area and will not be classified as a significant traffic contributor. Unfortunately, the location already has changes or has challenges. And that's one of the things that's also unsaid and to some extent in there is that this doesn't really exacerbate a problem, but it's not saying that there's a problem that it's difficult to make even worse, right? So I think it's saying that we got to, the way that I read this is, I think that some people would read what the chief says and says, oh, the chief doesn't know what he's talking about. There's no trailer trucks coming out of there, and there will be when this is built. I don't believe that that's what he's saying. I think he's simply saying that, look, this doesn't further burden an area that's not great already. And if we were to just take in my opinion, if we were to take this application simply as an application and not be focused on the site, it seems like it's very thoroughly done. It seems like it's very thoughtfully done. It seems like you have worked with the town and done what we've asked. I think you have the unfortunate challenge of having a road that's the town's to do something with, and an intersection of another road that's not the town's, that's the state's. And whether you can get one or both to do the things needed to truly make that site work for the use that you have is, I think, it's a joint problem. But the commission isn't tasked with improving roadways, as others have said. We're simply tasked with considering whether this is a suitable project for this location. And so, I do want to thank you for the time and effort you've put into this, and to just let you know that that's part of my challenge, is that I think that this project has merit. I agree with the thoughts that this is, the things that increase the tax base in town at the business level help to reduce it at other levels, but we have a lot of other things that we also have to weigh at the same time, as others have said. So thank you all for your time in coming before us and your work on this.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. I guess I would just give my, I would say, relatively brief comments based upon some of the comments that Mr. Fitzsimmons made on the application. When I look at it as far as the concerns that, probably the major concerns that people have, and that's respect to traffic. And, I've looked at the traffic report. I've listened to our peer review of the traffic report. And I know that people have different interpretations of that and different conclusions on that. But I mean, we request the traffic report. We request the input from a peer reviewer. We request the input from our legal traffic authority, our chief of police. We have our engineering department look at that. And my evaluation is that there may be, some people may have some discomfort with respect to this, but I'm looking at what the professionals are saying, and I put, as far as my, if you would, faith in that. We looked for the information, we've asked for it, they've reviewed it, and in my mind, the safety issues that have been raised, I don't think that the traffic report supports that. As far as how this conforms with our plan, not our plan of conservation and development, but the criteria for a special permit. In my mind, I think it meets the criteria for a special permit. I know there's, questions that are raised about the environment. It's gone through our Wetlands Commission. They have looked at it. They've approved the application. So in my mind, I think this complies with our regulations. I think Mr. Fitzsimmons was, I think, very much on point with most of the, or probably all of the comments he made. So from my point of view, I would, I would support this application. And with, I'm sorry, Mr. apparent is you're not voting on the application. You can't engage in the discussion. That's what our attorney had mentioned, I think, several meetings ago. So with that, there's no other comments from commission members. I'd entertain a motion on the application.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve special permit Midwood Management LLC, application 401-25. Special permit and site plan approval request to construct 3 warehouse buildings totaling 415,000 square feet and associated parking on plans entitled Site Development Plans for Warehouse Complex dated September 23rd, 2024, and revised to August 29th, 2025, subject to the following conditions of approval. Number 1, comments from environmental planner Aaron O'Hare dated 5/13/2025. Number 2, comments from senior engineer Tom Flannery, Water and Sewer Division dated 7/10/2025. Number 3, comments from town engineer Allison Kapuscinski dated 6/16/2025, 6/25/2025, 7/14/2024, 8/7/2024, and 8/20/2025. Number 4, comments from the Fire Marshal Brian Schott dated 7/2/2025 and 7/9/2025. Number 5, comments from the Chief of Police John Ventura dated 9/3/2025. Number 6, the use of rodenticides, first and second generation, and neonics insecticides shall be prohibited on site. Number 7, excavation permit is required from the Department of Engineering for any work within the right-of-way. Number 8, that native plantings are used that are conducive to the surrounding environment. Number 9, that the final plans are revised to prohibit left turns for trucks exiting onto Northrop Road. Number 10, operation and maintenance plan or notice of said plan to be filed on Wallingford land records. Number 11, once final architectural plans are compiled and a tenant is finalized, applicant to submit a final set of plans that matches the architectural door locations for review by town engineer and town planner prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number 12, erosion and sediment control bond shall be posted for each phase as construction progresses in the amount of $60,500 for each specific phase. And 13, 6 copies of final plans forwarded to the Planning and Zoning Office.
Excuse me, we have the motion on the application. Do we have any discussion?
I'll second.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. With that, again, any discussion? Yes, Mr. Sanders.
On item 3, comments from town engineer Allison Kapuscinski, a couple of the dates say 2024. Should those be changed to 2025?
Would you like to?
Okay, I'll amend that to state change 7/14/2024 to 7/14/2025, and the 8/7/2024 to 8/7/2025.
So with that,
as amended.
okay. And I take it your
It's
second
amended.
is still a second, Mr.
Yes,
Fitzsimmons?
still second.
Thank you. With that, I'll entertain voting, starting with Mr. Rivard.
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
And yes, sir, your application's been denied.
Do we need a motion to deny it?
I don't necessarily think so. Is any other motions that any commission members would like to make?
Sorry, I'm holding. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Pagini, take us through the rest of the agenda.
Bond release for Choate Rosemary Hall, the Hill House Servery. I did go out there. That can be released.
Do we have a motion to release the bond as recommended by Mr. Pagini?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to release the bond for Choate Rosemary Hall, 138 North Elm Street, Hill House Servery, application 213-23.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Administrative approvals, any questions on those?
Any questions?
And any questions on the ZBA meeting for next week?
I don't believe there's any questions.
And we did not receive any applications for October, so as of right now, there won't be an October meeting.
Okay. All right. I believe that concludes our business for this evening. So at this point in time, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn our September meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.